Chapter 121. South Gate of Zizuan Villa District. Ma Wu looked at the outsiders not far away with an angry look. Why did you hurt people for no reason? The superpower who just made a move was full of arrogance and disdained Ma Wu's anger. Why? Because we are the Lu family of Qingzhou. Do you understand the weight of the words Qingzhou, Lu families? Ma Wu's face was extremely ugly when he heard this. Of course, he had heard of the name of Qingzhou Lu family. Before the end of the world, the Lu family of Qingzhou was like the local emperor of Qingzhou, and after the end of the world, they directly ruled Qingzhou. And they have an army of thousands of people, all equipped with sophisticated weapons. Not to mention that they have hundreds of superpowers. Even if you're the Lu family, so what? We have not offended you. You hurt people for no reason. It's a bit unreasonable. The superpower laughed. Dignity is for people with strength. With your kind of stuff, you still want us to respect you. Do you have the strength? With the base of your level, we can kill you with a fart. As soon as these words came out, the Lu family laughed out loud, with contempt and arrogance in their eyes. Ma Wu was so angry that he trembled all over, and the other soldiers gnashed their teeth, and the anger in their eyes was about to burst out. But they were helpless. After all, they were weak. Just now, a superpower beat all of them. At this moment, listening to the wanton ridicule of the Lu family, the laughter sounded particularly harsh. A sense of humiliation arose spontaneously. Although they were all injected with the King of Soldiers serum today, their strength did not increase because they were on guard. At this moment, they could only be ridiculed in humiliation. One of the soldiers couldn't help but stand up and curse at the superpower who insulted him. You bastards are nothing but bullies. We will fight to the death, and will not let you bully us. The Lu family's superpower changed his expression and looked at the soldier coldly, with a flash of murderous intent in his eyes. Fight to the death? You may have some misunderstanding of your strength. Killing you is easy. A bunch of trash, and you dare to hurt me. It's ridiculous. You. The soldier was so angry that he couldn't speak, and a sense of powerlessness lingered in his heart. Hurry up and let your master come out to answer. I will give you 10 minutes. Once the 10 minutes are up, I will kill one of you for every minute of delay. The Lu family's superpower said in a cold tone. This is too much. Ma Wu couldn't bear it anymore, and the blood of the soldier completely broke out at this moment. He bent his legs slightly, exerted his strength instantly, and rushed to the front of the Lu family superpower. He clenched his right fist and smashed it hard towards the opponent's face. The Lu family superpower looked at Ma Wu's attack with a sneer on his face. He said lightly, "Rubbish." He didn't dodge or evade, but held Lu Wu's fist with one hand. No matter how Lu Wu struggled, his arm was still locked by the opponent. You want to hurt me with this little strength? Get out of here. The Lu family superpower looked at Ma Wu with disdain, and then he held Ma Wu's fist and twisted it down with force. Crack! A sound of broken bones sounded, and the severe pain made Ma Wu's face twisted instantly. He endured the pain and didn't cry out, but looked at the Lu family superpower with a face full of resentment. The Lu family superpower raised his foot and kicked Ma Wu in the stomach. Ma Wu was kicked more than 10 meters away, and finally hit the gate of the villa. Ma Wu's mouth was bleeding, and he stood up with difficulty. The Lu family supernatural looked at Ma Wu in surprise. Your bones are quite tough. You can stand up after being kicked by me. You are really something. Let's see how many times you can hold on. The Lu family supernatural showed a cruel smile and quickly flashed towards Ma Wu. Ma Wu's expression suddenly changed. The kick just now was his limit. If he was attacked by the opponent a few more times, he would be seriously injured if not dead. However, as a soldier, how can I be greedy for life and afraid of death? Even if I die, I will die on the way to charge. Ma Wu roared and rushed towards the Lu family supernatural as well. Knowing that it is impossible to do it, I still do it. Ma Wu waved his other uninjured fist and hit the Lu family supernatural. As an ordinary person, how could he be a match for a supernatural? Ma Wu was punched out by the Lu family supernatural again. Such hard bones. The Lu family supernatural person shook his aching arm. He had just punched Ma Wu in the sternum. I didn't expect this man's bones to be so hard. It hurt his hand. At this time, Ma Wu was lying on the ground, spitting blood from his mouth. He had just been hit by the opponent, and he didn't know how many bones were broken. His entire chest was sunken. His chest was up and down, and he looked very bad. Several soldiers had bloodshot eyes. Ma Wu was the big brother of their unit, and he took care of them meticulously on weekdays. Today he was beaten like this. They were all young and brave. How could they withstand this humiliation? Bastard, I'll fight you. Brothers, avenge Ma Gu. Several soldiers roared and rushed towards the Liu family's superpowers quickly. The Liu family's superpowers were full of murderous intent, ready to kill several people. Lu Wu, who was standing behind the crowd, said in a low voice, "Lu Xian, it's almost enough. Don't do it too much and end badly." "Yes." Lu Xian nodded slightly and looked at the group of soldiers coldly. He moved quickly and threw several punches in succession. Several soldiers were knocked out and lay on the ground covering their wounds. "You are lucky. Our second master is kind enough to spare your lives. Otherwise, you would all have died with that punch just now," the superpower Lu Xian said coldly. Then he walked straight to Ma Wu and squatted down, looking at Ma Wu with an angry face. He said with a smile on his face, "I just like your expression. It will be more interesting for me to kill you." "Ha! I can't help it. Killing you is not my intention. Weakness is the original sin. Killing you can serve as a warning to your group of people." Lu Xian slowly raised his right hand. "Don't worry. After you die, I will pray for you." As he said that, Lu Xian slapped Ma Wu's head with his right hand. Ma Wu looked at the palm that was coming at him quickly, clenched his teeth, and wanted to fight back, but he was so badly injured that he didn't have the strength to raise his right hand. He felt that his blood was boiling. Seeing the palm getting closer and closer to him, Ma Wu roared. At this critical moment, an accident happened. The palm stopped an inch above his head, and the palm wind brought by the palm made his skin sting. Lu Xian looked at this scene with horror on his face. What happened? His body was out of control. No matter how hard he tried, his body couldn't move at all. Just when he was shocked, a cold voice came. "The person who dared to hurt me thinks he has lived too long, right?" Chapter 1:22. Everyone in the Liu family looked towards the source of the voice. The speaker was a handsome, tall young man with deep eyes full of coldness. Behind him, there was a team of more than 100 people, each of whom looked at them with indignation. Judging from the positions of these people, this young man should be the leader of this group of people. Ling Feng walked straight to Ma Wu's side to check his injuries. When he saw Ma Wu's broken arm and chest, he was immediately furious. "Mr. Ling, I am useless and embarrassed you." Ma Wu looked pale and spoke with difficulty. Ling Feng supported Ma Wu's shoulders and whispered, "Don't say anything more. It's important to heal your injuries first." Ling Feng took out a cardiac stimulant and adrenaline from the space and injected it into Ma Wu, and then arranged for someone to take him and several other soldiers down for emergency treatment. Then he looked at the person he controlled. Although Lu Xian couldn't move, his attitude was still arrogant. "You are the leader of this group of people. Fortunately, you came in time. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see them for the last time," Lu Xian said provocatively. Ling Feng smiled coldly and didn't know where this idiot came from, who gave him such great confidence, and he dared to be so arrogant when he was about to die. "Did your mother forget her brain when she gave birth to you? Otherwise, how could she give birth to such a brainless thing like you?" Ling Feng said sarcastically. "You, do you know who I am? You dare to talk to me like this, Before Lu Xian finished speaking, he began to scream. Ling Feng pointed at her in the air, and his right arm broke directly out of thin air and fell to the ground. Blood gushed out immediately as if it was free, which looked terrifying. Lu Xian's face was distorted, and veins on his forehead bulged. The strange scene of Lu Xian's arm breaking out of thin air shocked everyone in the Liu family. Not only the Liu family, but even the more than 100 soldiers behind Ling Feng were impressed by Ling Feng's magical method. Ling Feng's method, which was like a god, made them all amazed. Everyone in the Liu family was stunned for a few seconds before they came back to their senses. Lu Wu walked out of the crowd with a slightly cold look. He stared at Ling Feng with sharp eyes and said in a low voice, "Your Excellency hurt my Lu family. Don't you think too much of me?" Ling Feng turned his eyes to the person who spoke. A middle-aged man, wearing a Tang suit with a majestic face, looks a bit similar to Lu Wei in the mind before. However, this person's figure looks taller than Lu Wei, and his aura is more powerful. This person should be a master who is much stronger than Lu Wei. Ling Feng looked at Lu Wu with cold eyes and said lightly, "Why should I take you seriously? Who do you think you are? You dare to hurt my people and want to go back intact? Dream on." Lu Wu's expression suddenly turned cold. He didn't expect this person to be so tough. He dared to speak rudely to the Lu family in front of him. He said coldly, "You want to go against our Lu family? Don't you know the strength of our Lu family? It's not something a small base like yours can compete with." Lu Xian, who was still being tightly controlled by Ling Feng at this time, screamed loudly at Lu Wu, "Second Master, save me!" Lu Wu's eyes moved slightly. Looking at Lu Xian with an ugly face, his expression couldn't help but become a little colder. Lu Xian is one of the few superpowers in their Lu family's direct lineage, and he has always been the focus of training. Now that his arm is broken, his combat effectiveness has dropped sharply. This is a major loss for their Lu family. "Put my people down," Lu Wu said to Ling Feng almost in an imperative tone. Ling Feng smiled coldly. "Okay, I'll give you an arm first." As he said that, Ling Feng lightly pointed his finger at Lu Xian. With a bang, Lu Xian's other arm exploded as if it was shot. A broken arm flew directly to Lu Wu's feet. Lu Xian screamed again. The pain reached the extreme and finally fainted from the pain. But Ling Feng would not let him off so easily. If she didn't torture him to death and then kill him, it would be difficult to relieve her anger. Ling Feng slapped Lu Xian directly, and the unconscious Lu Xian was awakened directly. Then there was a tragic scream. Lu Wu in the distance clenched his fists, and the anger in his heart was about to be suppressed. "Boy, you dare to challenge me again and again. You are already seeking death." But he held back and didn't make a move. Ling Feng's ability was too strange. Before he understood Ling Feng's ability, he didn't dare to make a move rashly. Ling Feng sneered. He saw clearly that this person was only good at talking, but he didn't hesitate to take action. It was obvious that he was afraid of him. After understanding this, Ling Feng immediately came up with a plan. He tapped Lu Xian twice in a row, and Lu Xian's two calves suddenly became two individuals. Now Lu Xian has become a human pig. Only his head can move. Ling Feng threw the human pig Lu Xian directly into the air at Lu Wu. Lu Wu hurriedly stretched out his hands to catch it. Lu Wu looked at Lu Xian, who was covered in blood. At this time, he was extremely weak and obviously could not survive. Lu Wu looked at Ling Feng and laughed angrily. "Okay, boy, you are brave. It seems that my fifth brother was also killed by you." "Your fifth brother?" "Lu Wei," Ling Feng asked with a puzzled look. "Yes, my fifth brother died in the mine. We found this place based on the wheel marks in the mine." "Did you kill my fifth brother?" Lu Wu said coldly. "Lu Wei was killed by the people in the storm base. It has nothing to do with me. If you want revenge, go to the storm base," Ling Feng said calmly. "But the people in the storm base are also dead. There is no evidence." "How can I believe what you said?" Ling Feng snorted coldly. He said casually, "Believe it or not." Lu Wu stared at Ling Feng with bloodshot eyes. Ling Feng's arrogant attitude made him crazy. He wished he could torture Ling Feng to death right now. Today's matter will not be let go. My Lu family will not let it go. You just wait to accept the wrath of our Lu family. After Lu Wu finished speaking, he took several other Lu family psychics and prepared to turn around and leave. At this moment, Ling Feng's voice sounded. "Wait!" Lu Wu turned around with an arrogant look. He thought Ling Feng was scared and wanted to give in to him. "Why? Scared?" Ling Feng looked at him with a smile. "Scared? I think you misunderstood. I just want to say, if I asked you to leave, you should leave. What do you think I am? A vegetable market. You can come and go as you please. You! Lu Wu was immediately furious. Do you want to fight to the death with my Lu families? You are worthy. Ling Feng looked at him with contempt. Chapter 123. What do you want? Lu Wu glared at Ling Feng, feeling extremely humiliated. As the second in command of the Lu family, he had never been treated like this. He just wanted to leave quickly, mobilize the Lu family's masters, and flatten this small base. Then he would tear the man in front of him, who he hated, into pieces. Ling Feng walked towards Lu Wu with a lazy step, with a smile on his face. You can leave if you kneel down and kowtow to us 3 times, then cut off one of your arms, and I will consider sparing your life. When Lu Wu heard this, his expression suddenly changed, and he was shaking with anger. The other Lu family superpowers were immediately furious. In the past, they were the only ones who insulted others. How could they be insulted by others? Ling Feng's words completely ignited their anger. One of the superpowers spoke angrily. Do you really think that our Qingzhou Lu family is easy to bully? Today I will let you see our Lu family. Bang! The power user just now was slapped away by Ling Feng before he finished speaking. His body slid along the ground for dozens of meters, leaving a bloody mark on the ground. Half of the face of the power user was smashed by Ling Feng, and the bloody look was terrifying. Lu Wu saw that he had lost another power user, and he couldn't bear it anymore. His whole body moved and came directly to a place 5 meters away from Ling Feng. A pair of eyes full of resentment stared at Ling Feng, and his voice became hoarse because of extreme anger. I didn't want to take action, but you have hurt people again and again, and you really think that there is no one in my Lu family. The same thing I will give you. Dare to hurt me. Your end is only death. Ling Feng said with a cold face. Lu Wu slowly raised his hands and saw his legs slowly leave the ground. A faint wind began to gather around him in a diameter of 3 meters and swirled around his body. After another 2 or 3 seconds, the wind gradually turned into a storm comparable to level 18. The huge wind force made the space of dozens of meters around vibrate. Some ordinary soldiers were even a little unstable under the influence of the storm. The roaring wind blew the ice and snow on the ground around them, and the visibility was instantly reduced. Only the area of 2 meters around them could be seen. The huge wind force, under the blessing of this cold weather, hit people's skin like being cut by a knife, stinging. The soldiers behind Ling Feng suddenly showed a look of horror. He actually changed the surrounding environment with his own strength. How could it be possible to create a storm of more than 10 levels? How could this person's ability be so terrifying? Even Ling Feng's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He didn't expect that Lu Wu's ability could actually control the storm. And the power looked really good. This Lu Wu really has some skills, much stronger than those 2 rubbish just now. The remaining few Lu family's ability users, seeing the reaction of Ling Feng and his group, immediately looked at them proudly. The waist that had just bent straightened up, and the gloom on his face was swept away. Second Master, you must avenge our dead brothers. Kill them all? How arrogant you were just now. How panicked you are now, huh? Second Master is mighty. Lu Wu listened to his subordinates flattering him, and his self-confidence in his heart soared unconsciously. His body floated 2 meters above the ground, like a high god. Lu Wu looked down at Ling Feng, his eyes full of contempt. Boy, today I will let you feel the power of a superpowered person. You will eventually pay the price of your life for your wrong decision. The storm is coming. Lu Wu roared. The powerful tornado gathered around him spun at high speed and quickly moved towards Ling Feng. The tornado came to Ling Feng in an instant. More than 100 soldiers behind Ling Feng lost their balance and were blown away by the strong storm. For a while, people and horses were thrown to the ground. Everyone's body was scarred by the violent wind. Facing the powerful tornado, Ling Feng, who was standing at the front, remained motionless, and his whole body was like a nail in place, without any change. Gravity field. Ling Feng uttered 4 words gently from the corner of his mouth. Bang! With a loud noise, Lu Wu, who was originally floating in the air, was instantly slammed into the ground. A 1-meter-deep human-shaped pit appeared on the ground, and the pit was full of cracks around it. The raging storm disappeared without a trace. The chaotic environment caused by the storm also became clear in an instant. The whole place suddenly became quiet. The Liu family members looked dazed, not daring to believe this scene. Lu Wu's amazing attack would definitely kill them instantly. But such a terrifying superpower was easily blocked by the young man on the opposite side. This person's strength has reached an immeasurable existence. Several superpower users suddenly felt a sense of powerlessness and fear of approaching death. More than 100 soldiers behind Ling Feng looked at Ling Feng's figure as if he were a god. At this moment, Ling Feng was the god in their hearts. In the pit, Lu Wu coughed violently several times. Along with the cough, blood mixed with internal organs flowed out uncontrollably. He climbed out of the pit with difficulty. At this time, he was covered in blood, and all the bones in his body were broken by the huge gravity. He no longer had the high spirits just now. Ling Feng walked slowly to Lu Wu's front. His eyes were cold. Lu Wu raised his head with difficulty. His eyes were scattered. You wanted to speak, but blood gushed out of his mouth instantly. Finally, he slowly died in reluctance. Ling Feng slowly shook his head and said with a hint of desolation in his tone, "There is no one who can fight. Life is so lonely as snow." He looked at the few surviving superpowers of the Liu family. The faces of the few people were pale as paper when they were looked at by Ling Feng. "I am willing to follow you, sir. Please take me in." One of them knelt down to Ling Feng with a thump. He kept kowtowed like pounding garlic. The rest of them followed suit and knelt down to Ling Feng. They all begged for mercy. "Sir, we were wrong. Please let us go. Lu Wu is really not a human being. He dares to go against you. He really doesn't know how to live or die. My wife has been taken over by Lu Wu. I will never stop fighting him." Ling Feng frowned as he listened to the chirping voices begging for mercy from the other side. He immediately thought, "Bang! Bang! Bang! Bang!" Several psychics who begged for mercy were directly crushed into meat paste by the strong gravity. The world is finally quiet. Ling Feng walked calmly to the middle of the piles of minced meat and found 5 crystals. Then he took out Lu Wu's crystal. Lu Wu's ability was still very powerful. Although it was useless to him, it was an unsolvable existence when facing other psychics. Chapter 124. Ling Feng turned around and looked at the hundreds of soldiers behind him with a solemn expression. "From today on, the Ares base is officially established, and you will all be members of the Ares base in the future. From now on, no matter who you face, you must show the invincible temperament of our Ares base. No matter what force or family, you must show the fearless spirit and strike the invading enemy." The soldiers were excited and looked at Ling Feng with enthusiasm. "Mr. Ling, it is you who gave us dignity. We will follow you to death. The Ares base is invincible." The soldiers shouted, "The Ares base is invincible. The Ares base is invincible. The Ares base is invincible." The fanatical voice resounded through the sky. Ling Feng raised his right hand lightly, and the crowd instantly quieted down. Ling Feng glanced at the crowd in the field and said lightly, "Invincible is not just talk. You have to show your real ability. With your current strength, it's ridiculous to say you are invincible. Go back and train hard now. Don't embarrass me. I hope you can become a truly invincible Iron Army." After hearing Ling Feng's words, the soldiers were full of fighting spirit. They wanted to fly to the training ground and train desperately now. The strength shown by Ling Feng today made them admire him very much. "Young Master Ling, we will never embarrass you," a captain said with a firm face. "We will definitely become the strongest army in the world. Okay, I will definitely take you to see the beautiful rivers and mountains of Dragon Country." Ling Feng was also moved by the soldiers' hearts and said ambitiously. Encouraged by Ling Feng, the soldiers once again devoted themselves to hard training headquarters of the Co-Creation Base Alliance in Shangjing City. Zhang Fatsai was sitting in his office at this moment, drinking tea and eating melon seeds with a leisurely look on his face. Right in front of his desk, a 120-inch large-screen TV was playing the classic movie To the Northwest. Zhang Fatsai was watching it with great interest. A quick knock on the door brought him back to reality from the exciting plot. Zhang Fatsai turned off the TV with an angry look. He put away the smile on his lips. "Come in." The man looked a little flustered, with a hint of anxiety in his eyes. "Alliance leader, a group of people came outside and asked to see you by name. They acted very arrogantly. Our people said a few words to them, and as a result, they not only robbed our weapons, but also beat people." "What?" Zhang Fatsai slammed the table and stood up. "Damn it! Who is so bold as to provoke our Co-Creation Base Alliance? Let's go. I want to see who dares to be so arrogant and not take me." Zhang Fatsai, seriously. Zhang Fatsai walked out angrily. As soon as Zhang Fatsai arrived at the gate of the base, he saw several sentinels of his base lying on the ground, holding their stomachs and groaning. In front of these sentinels, there stood a man. Everyone had a flamboyant look on their faces, looking extremely arrogant. Zhang Fatsai walked forward with several superpowers in the base with an angry face. "Damn it! You are blind. You even dare to provoke me. Who are you?" At this time, a white-faced young man walked out of the 7 people. This person had an indifferent look and a paralyzed face. A pair of sharp eyes looked like he was not easy to provoke. "I'm Zhang Tsong from the Storm Base. I want to ask you something. I don't care what base you are from. Anyone who dares to hit me must die," Zhang Fatsai said angrily. Zhang Tsong frowned and looked at Zhang Fatsai with cold eyes. "You're looking for death. Do it." Zhang Tsong disappeared instantly, and the next moment he came directly in front of Zhang Fatsai. The other several superpowers also attacked the people who created the alliance at the same time. The two sides fought each other instantly. In the center of the battlefield, Zhang Tsong and Zhang Fatsai fought fiercely, and the two sides fought back and forth. At this time, Zhang Fatsai was getting more and more frightened, although he and Zhang Fatsai were evenly matched. But his physical strength was gradually decreasing, while the man on the other side was getting stronger and stronger, without any signs of exhaustion. In the gap between the battles, he glanced at the battles of others. This made him even more anxious. The 3 psychics on his side could only passively defend themselves against the attacks of the 6 psychics on the other side. Judging from the current situation, the 3 people on his side will not be able to hold on for much longer. Zhang Fatsai was not only a little impatient, but also had many flaws in his movements. Zhang Tsong seized the flaws of the opponent and his eye diseased quickly. He kicked Zhang Fatsai in the stomach. Zhang Fatsai was kicked hard and flew out, hitting the gate of the base. The battle of other people on the field ended quickly, and the 3 superpowers of the Co-Creation Base Alliance were all knocked out and lost their combat effectiveness. Zhang Fatsai covered his stomach, blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. Looking at Zhang Tsong, who was pressing towards him step by step, he looked a little panicked. "What on earth do you want to do?" Zhang Tsong looked at him with contempt and said coldly, "Can you talk properly now?" Zhang Fatsai hurriedly stood up, bent down, and said with a flattering smile, Yes, I didn't recognize the real man just now. Whatever you want to ask, just ask. I will tell you everything I know." Zhang Tsong's expression eased a little. "You're smart. I'm asking you, do you know what happened in Wangzhuang Mine?" Zhang Fatsai said, with a puzzled look. "What do you mean by that?" "It's the killing of Zhao Wuji from our storm base and Lu Wei from the Lu family." "What, they were killed?" Zhang Fatsai said, with a surprised look. "You don't know?" Zhang Tsong stared at him with sharp eyes. Zhang Fatsai was a little scared by Zhang Tsong's eyes and said hurriedly, "To be honest, I really don't know. I was beaten out not long after I entered the mine. Even the ore I just got was taken away." "Oh." "To be able to snatch the ore from you, it seems that the other side is also a powerful big base." Zhang Tsong was moved. He did not find the bodies of other bases in the mine, which means that these people may be the murderers of Zhao Wuji. Zhang Fatsai sighed helplessly. Alas, there is only one person on the opposite side, but this person's strength is terrifying. He killed several of our superpowers in an instant. If I hadn't been smart, I would have been killed, Zhang Fatsai said with some relief. Zhang Tsong listened to what Zhang Fatsai said, and his expressionless face fluctuated a little. One person killed several superpowers in an instant. If what Zhang Fatsai said was true, then this person's strength may have reached the level of a superpower. If so, this matter is a bit troublesome. Zhang Tsong immediately asked Zhang Fatsai to tell the whole story of this matter in detail. Chapter 125. Ling Feng. Zhang Tsong narrowed his eyes slightly and kept repeating Ling Feng's name. After listening to Zhang Fatsai's description and investigating the scene, his sixth sense told him that there was definitely something wrong with this Ling Feng. Perhaps Zhao Wuji's death had something to do with Ling Feng. Zhao Wuji's ability was very powerful, and ordinary people could only injure him at most, but they would definitely not kill him. According to Zhang Fatsai, Ling Feng's strength was definitely enough to kill Zhao Wuji. So Ling Feng was very likely the murderer who killed Zhao Wuji. A gleam of light flashed across Zhang Tsong's eyes, and they suddenly became sharp. Do you know where this Ling Feng lives? Zhang Tsong looked at Zhang Fatsai and said indifferently. This I really don't know, Zhang Fatsai said with a smile on his face. Zhang Tsong immediately showed an unhappy look on his face. Go check for me, find all his information for me. Zhang Fatsai nodded in agreement, fearing that he would offend this evil spirit. At the same time, in the Liu family villa, Lu Neng was furious. The entire study was smashed to pieces by him, and he was still swearing. The two bodyguards guarding the door were terrified at this moment. They had never seen the head of the family so furious. The valuable antique vase was smashed, but when they thought of the reason for the head of the family's anger, they understood. The head of the family is really angry this time, one of them said in a low voice. How can he not be angry? The Liu family has lost several superpowers this time, including a superpower. Even for a big family like the Liu family, it is a huge loss. Another person also sighed. What's going on inside? Just as the two were whispering, a gentle voice came. Young master. After seeing the person clearly, the two bodyguards hurriedly bowed and saluted respectfully. Young master, the master is angry inside. Lu Guanyu's expression changed slightly when he heard this, and he pushed the door and walked in. As soon as he entered the room, an ashtray flew towards him. Lu Guanyu hurriedly dodged sideways. Lu Neng was about to get angry, but when he saw the face of the person clearly, he swallowed the dirty words that were about to come out of his mouth. Then he sat back on the sofa with a dejected look. Lu Guanyu looked at the mess on the ground, and there was no place to step. There were broken pieces of vases everywhere. He casually found a sofa and sat on it leisurely, saying indifferently, Dad, what made you so sad? Lu Neng looked extremely ugly, his eyes slightly red, and said with gritted teeth, Your second uncle and the 6 superpowers of the Liu family were killed. My second uncle was killed. Lu Guanyu stood up from the sofa suddenly, his face full of surprise. My second uncle is a superpower. His strength is unfathomable. Who can kill him and 6 superpowers at the same time? Lu Neng took a deep breath and said slowly, This person is Ling Feng, a superpower from Shangjing City. Your second uncle went to this person's base to investigate the murder of your 5th uncle, but he never came back and was brutally killed by this person. Lu Guanyu frowned slightly, his face full of thought. Is this person's base very strong? He was able to kill so many people in a very short time, which means that the superpowers in their base are either very strong or there are a lot of them. Lu Neng shook his head slowly. This person's base is in a small villa. There shouldn't be many people, and the number of superpowers is unknown, because only Ling Feng has taken action from beginning to end. The young master of the Kai family was also killed by him before. Lu Guanyu was surprised at this moment. One person, he knew Lu Wu's strength. Not only was he a superpower, but his storm power was also very powerful even among the superpowers. And Lu Wu had killed superpowers before. Such a strong man was killed. I didn't expect that Ling Feng's strength was so strong. It seems that our Lu family is in trouble, Lu Guanyu said with some concern. Lu Ning really didn't care when he heard it. He snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, "No matter how powerful he is just one person. Apart from him, the others are just a mob. I have decided to send our Lu family's elite troops over this time, plus 20 psychics and 3 super psychics, led by me personally. This time, we must tear Ling Feng into pieces. Dad, this plan is absolutely not feasible. It will drag our Lu family into the abyss," Lu Guanyu said anxiously. Huh? Why are you saying that? Lu Ning looked at him puzzledly. If you lead the troops there, the strength of our Lu family base camp will inevitably be empty. Once at this time, someone will take advantage of the opportunity and seize this place. Even if we kill Ling Feng, we will lose more than we gain, Lu Neng said indifferently. The whole Qingzhou is under the control of our Lu family. Who dares to take advantage of us? Besides, the forces of the entire Qingzhou, even if added together, are not the opponents of our Lu family. Lu Guanyu touched his nose and said seriously, "There is no Qingzhou. Then what about outside Qingzhou? The storm base in the neighboring Yuzhou has been in constant friction with us. Once our army is dispatched, the people in the storm base will definitely get the news. No one can guarantee that he will stay in Yuzhou honestly and not invade." Lu Ning heard this and lowered his head in thought. "What do you think we should do?" Lu Ning looked at Lu Guanyu, hoping that his son could give him some advice. His son has been very smart since he was a child, and his judgment and analysis of things are more thorough than his father. Lu Guanyu lowered his eyes, bowed his head, and thought for a moment, and said, "We can join forces with the Kai family. Didn't the young master of the Kai family die in Shangjing City before? Our Lu family and the Kai family are old friends. As long as you, Dad, go and negotiate with the head of the Kai family, he will definitely be willing to cooperate. When the time comes, the two families will send troops together, and you, Father, will sit back and wait for good news." Lu Ning nodded slightly. "This method is good. I will contact Kai Haonan later to discuss the matter of joint dispatch of troops. There is one more thing, Guanyu. How is the progress of the genetic project we have jointly developed with MK Company recently?" Lu Guanyu smiled slightly. A hint of confidence flashed in his eyes, and said, "The progress is not bad. I believe that the experiment will be completed in a few days. By then, the number of superpowers in our Lu family will increase several times. So, Father, don't worry. As long as the experiment is successful, all Ling Feng will die." Lu Neng heard this, and a hint of joy appeared on his face. As long as the experiment is successful, their Lu family will not only be able to sit firmly in Qingzhou, but also continue to expand outward, eliminate the bases in several surrounding cities, and even control the entire Handong province. Chapter 126. 3 days passed in a flash. During these 3 days, the Ares base has developed rapidly. First of all, the strength of the 360 soldiers in the base has been doubled. After seeing Ling Feng's powerful strength, the soldiers' training enthusiasm was extremely high. Most of the soldiers' combat power has reached more than 60. There are also a few soldiers whose combat power has reached more than 80. In addition to the combat power of the soldiers, the strength of Lin Su and Wang Long has also been rapidly improved. After Ling Feng upgraded the crystals obtained by killing several superpowers of the Lu family, most of them were given to the two of them. Wang Long's strength directly broke through 1,000 times, becoming the third-ranked master in the entire Ares base. Lin Su, who ranked second, has a strength of 1,500 times and has also mastered the storm power. Modern Lin Su not only has a strong recovery ability, but also has extremely high combat power. Even when facing a superpower, she can solve it within 3 moves. Apart from the two of them, the one that surprised Ling Feng the most was the Black Panther. After the Black Panther awakened his superpowers, his size grew bigger day by day. In order to help him grow quickly, Ling Feng gave him an inner pill. The Black Panther's entire body length directly broke through to 10 meters, and it looked extremely majestic. Although his size had grown, his speed did not feel clumsy at all, but was more agile. Its superpower was sonic attack. Under his sonic attack, a glass cup 100 meters away was directly shattered into pieces. Moreover, his sonic attack could also be directed, so even if you stood next to him, you would not be accidentally injured. Ling Feng was very satisfied with the Black Panther's superpowers. The Black Panther could be used as a surprise soldier to catch the enemy off guard in battle. On the training ground, the soldiers were still training desperately, and Ling Feng lazily lay on a rocking chair and watched the soldiers train. The huge Black Panther next to him was lying on the ground sleeping. When the strength of this group of soldiers is improved, we must find a larger place as a base. Now this villa area is too small and is not suitable for use as a base. Where can we find a good shelter? Ling Feng smoked and thought about this matter in his mind. Just when he was thinking hard, he suddenly had an idea. He called Ma Wu directly through the intercom. After a while, Ma Wu ran over panting. "Chief, you are looking for me." "Oh, Ma, tell me about the structure of your previous official shelter." Ma Wu asked in confusion. "Chief, are you ready to launch an attack?" Ling Feng touched his chin and said lightly, "That Zhang Erge has provoked me time and again. I never had time to deal with him before, so I let him live a few more days. Now is the time." Ma Wu's expression was a little complicated. Once he attacked Zhang Erge, it would mean that the soldiers in the shelter would become their enemies. This was what he least wanted to see. But Zhang Erge was a man of many evil deeds. If he was not killed, the entire shelter would continue to be exploited by him. Ma Wu thought for a moment and said solemnly, "The entire shelter covers an area of more than 100,000 square meters, and it is all built 30 meters underground. It is no problem to accommodate nearly 10,000 people. The facilities of the entire shelter are very complete. There are not only residential areas, but also small food processing plants and grain cultivation bases in the military area. And the defense capability of the entire shelter is very strong. The walls are all made of high-strength concrete with a thickness of up to 1 meter." After listening to Ma Wu's introduction to the shelter, Ling Feng had to sigh. As expected of an official shelter, it was really strong, just a little bit worse than his villa. The main reason was that the area of the entire shelter was large enough to accommodate the living use of people like them. However, he still wanted to continue living in his villa, and he planned to take the entire villa into the space and take it away, just when he was still thinking about how to build a stronger shelter. At this time, the official shelter welcomed a group of special guests. At this time, Zhang Erge was standing in front of Zhang Tsong with a flattering face, and he was still flattering. "It's my honor that you can come to our small base. I am willing to take our entire base to join the storm base." Zhang Tsong was full of pride and was very satisfied with Zhang Erge's performance. Originally, he wanted to use his own means to make Zhang Erge surrender. Unexpectedly, he was so sensible. When he heard that he was from the storm base, he took the initiative to ask to join without saying a word. How could he know what Zhang Erge was thinking at this moment? Ever since Long Hao led his elite troops to attack Ling Feng's villa, he never returned. After sending people to inquire, he found out that Long Hao was dead and all his soldiers surrendered. Since then, Zhang Erge has lived in fear every day. Maybe Ling Feng will come with his troops one day. He is not his opponent. Fortunately, there is always a way out. At the critical moment, the savior appeared. Zhang Tsong led people to the door of the shelter. He opened the door and surrendered without saying a word. At this moment, he no longer cared about his dignity. Dignity is not as important as his life. "Boss, I don't know what you are here for today," Zhang Erge asked with a flattering smile. "Do you know Ling Feng?" Zhang Tsong asked lightly. "Ling Feng?" Zhang Erge paused, and a trace of resentment flashed in his eyes. "Do you know him?" Zhang Tsong saw Zhang Erge's expression suddenly changed after hearing the word Ling Feng. He couldn't help but feel curious. More than knowing him, I'm too familiar with him. I have an irreconcilable hatred with him. Zhang Tsong was immediately interested when he heard it, and immediately sat up straight and said with interest, "Tell me about Ling Feng." Zhang Erge nodded, and then told everything about Ling Feng with hatred on his face. After listening to Zhang Erge's description, Zhang Tsong's guess in his heart became more certain. This Ling Feng is really a troublemaker, and he has enemies everywhere, Zhang Tsong said with a chuckle. Zhang Tsong looked at Zhang Ergu and continued to ask, "You just said that Ling Feng's home still has a huge amount of supplies?" Zhang Ergu nodded fiercely and said with certainty, "His family has abundant supplies. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to support hundreds of soldiers." Zhang Tsong closed his eyes slightly, thinking about what Zhang Ergu had just said. After a while, he suddenly said, "Tomorrow, you take a group of elite soldiers to find Ling Feng, and find out if Ling Feng is willing to surrender to my storm base. If he dares to refuse, I will let the people of the storm base flatten his nest." Chapter 127. Zhang Ergu was afraid. After all, he had a grudge against Ling Feng. If he went to negotiate with Ling Feng, he might not be able to come back. Zhang Erge looked a little ugly for a while. Zhang Tsong saw what Zhang Erge meant, and he despised him in his heart. The leader of a base was so timid. However, he did not show any dissatisfaction on the surface, but said in a slightly low voice, "You don't need to worry about your safety. I will send 3 superpowers to accompany you. In addition, as long as you say the name of my storm base, I believe that Ling Feng will not embarrass you." The 4-word storm base are enough to explain everything. Zhang Tsong's words were so domineering that Zhang Ergu was also moved. The original fear in his heart was gone, and now he was full of confidence. Now that he has embraced the thigh of the critical base, Ling Feng will not dare to be presumptuous no matter how brave he is. Thinking of this, Zhang Erge's mouth curled up with a smile. "Please rest assured, I will definitely take care of this matter for you tomorrow. Today, let me entertain you well and do my best to be a good host." Zhang Ergu invited Zhang Tsong and his party to enter the inner core area of the shelter. He asked the kitchen to arrange a table of good wine and food, and asked Yang Zihan to accompany them. Although Yang Zihan was extremely dissatisfied, she had to attend under the pressure of Zhang Ergu. The appearance of Yang Zihan made the whole banquet more interesting. Yang Zihan has delicate features, a perfect figure, straight black hair, and her every frown and smile is full of charm. Even Zhang Tsong, who had an indifferent face, couldn't help but be moved. The others were even more excited, and their saliva almost fell to the ground. Zhang Erge sat in his seat and saw the expressions of everyone present. Zhang Erge coughed dryly. The others looked away awkwardly, but some people still glanced at them inadvertently. Zhang Erge said with a smile, "Let me introduce you. His name is Yang Zihan. He is 26 years old this year, and he is here to accompany you tonight for fun." Zhang Erge had a lewd smile, and his tone unconsciously emphasized the word fun. The other people unconsciously showed a look of understanding. Yang Zihan's face turned pale, and she couldn't help but secretly curse Zhang Ergu for being worse than a pig or a dog. But what can she do as an ordinary person in such an environment? She can only become a plaything of a big shot, at the mercy of others. "Come on, Zihan, have a drink with our Captain Zhang." Zhang Ergu picked up a glass of wine and handed it to Yang Zihan. Although Yang Zihan was very reluctant in her heart, she could only come to Zhang Tsong with a shallow smile. Said softly, "Hello, Captain Zhang. I toast you a glass. Thank you for coming. I'll drink this glass." Yang Zihan finished the wine in her hand. Zhang Tsong smiled faintly. "Miss Yang has a good alcohol tolerance. I'll drink it too." After saying that, he drank the wine in the glass. Yang Zihan looked at him tenderly, which made Zhang Tsong feel itchy. Yang Zihan toasted each person in turn with a glass of wine. With her powerful charm, everyone present was moved. The banquet lasted nearly 4 hours. After everyone was a little drunk, Zhang Ergu left the private room very sensibly. Only Yang Zihan, Zhang Tsong, and several people from the storm base were left in the room. Yang Zihan looked at the group of hungry wolves with a dazed look and couldn't help sighing in his heart. Early the next morning, Yang Zihan woke up slowly, and the private room was in a mess. He was the only one left in the huge room, and the whole room was filled with unpleasant smells. She struggled to stand up, and the tearing pain from her lower body made her frown. She looked at the scars all over her body, and her clothes were all torn into pieces. She walked to the bathroom and saw herself in the mirror with messy hair and haggard face. 2 lines of humiliation, tears, quietly slid down. Why? Why did her life become like this? She could have lived a life of luxury and food and was pursued by thousands of people, but now she can only use her body to please men for such a little food. The source of all this was Ling Feng. If it weren't for Ling Feng, she wouldn't be like this now. They all deserve to die. Ling Feng, Lin Su, Zhang Ergu, Zhang Tsong. You all deserve to die. Yang Zihan had a hideous face, and the hatred in her heart made her face look extremely ugly. Her breathing became rapid. At this moment, she felt that the time of the whole world had stopped. Only her heart was still pounding. This wonderful feeling only lasted a few seconds before returning to normal. How could this happen? Yang Zihan was extremely surprised. He felt the changes in his body, and it was definitely not an illusion. She looked at herself in the mirror, and it seemed that she had changed at this moment. The scars on her body disappeared miraculously, and there seemed to be a huge energy lurking in her body. Her brain suddenly became clear. What happened to me? Yang Zihan felt the changes in her body and was shocked. She put on her broken clothes and returned to her room. He felt that his steps were much lighter along the way. She changed into a new set of clothes. A girl in the room was cleaning the room. This girl was an assistant specially assigned to her by Zhang Ergu. She usually acted as a nanny. Yang Zihan looked at the girl mopping the floor, and her mind moved. She gently spit out to the girl, "Stay." The girl who was mopping the floor suddenly stopped moving, as if the TV screen was paused. But this time only lasted for 2 seconds. After that, the girl resumed her previous actions. Yang Zihan observed the girl's expression, which seemed to have not changed. She asked tentatively, "Xiaonan, what happened to you just now? Why did you suddenly stand there and not move?" The girl named Xiao then looked at her in confusion when she heard it. "Sister Zihan, I was mopping the floor just now. When did I stand here and not move?" Yang Zihan smiled lightly and said gently, "Maybe I saw it wrong. It's okay. You can continue to be busy," Yang Zihan said and walked out of the room. At this time, she was ecstatic. I didn't expect that she would become a superpower one day. Is this God's compensation for me? I must leave here and build my own power. Zhang Ergu, this idiot, will definitely not be able to defeat Ling Feng. This place will be occupied by Ling Feng sooner or later. I'd better leave here as soon as possible. Yang Zihan kept thinking about his next plan. At the same time, Zhang Ergu led hundreds of elite soldiers and 3 superpowers and headed towards Ling Feng's villa with full confidence. Chapter 128. Zhang Ergu was full of pride at this moment. Today was the day for him to avenge his previous humiliation. The previous actions against Ling Feng all ended in failure. Today he could finally hold his head high. Zhang Ergu said carefully to the 3 superpowers from the storm base beside him, "3 brothers, when we get there later, you must support me." One of them looked at Zhang Ergu with a flash of disgust in his eyes. If their boss hadn't specifically told them to follow Zhang Ergu's orders in this operation, they wouldn't have paid any attention to this person. Lost value. Don't worry. We brothers will be your strong backing today. We must show the momentum of our storm base. If there is anything, we brothers will support you. One of the superpowers waved his hand and said nonchalantly. Zhang Ergu smiled and said with a proud face, "Thank you, brothers. I will treat you well when I go back." The 3 of them smiled at each other. The experience of last night made them feel unsatisfied and full of aftertaste. Zhang Ergu continued, "I have been bullied by Ling Feng several times. Today I must get back at him. I must make him kneel in front of me to apologize and beg for mercy." The fierceness on Zhang Ergu's face flashed. Now that he has found the backer, Ling Feng is just a jumping clown in his eyes. He has already thought about how to humiliate Ling Feng later. and how Ling Feng will kneel down and beg for mercy. When he thought of this, his heart was extremely happy, sweeter than eating honey. 3 hours passed quickly. They also arrived near the villa area soon. At this time, a soldier ran quickly from a distance and bowed to Zhang Ergu. "Lord, I just checked. There are more than a dozen sentries at the gate of the villa area. They are all from our previous search team." Zhang Ergu was a little angry when he heard this, and he cursed. "These traitors, I spent so many resources to support them, but they actually surrendered to Ling Feng. I will deal with them sooner or later." Then he turned his head and ordered more than 100 soldiers with a serious face. "It's just ahead. Everyone cheer up." Then the team continued to move forward and soon arrived at the gate of the villa area. At this time, the people from the number 20 Ares base stood at the gate in full armor, and Wang Long stood at the front waiting for their arrival. The people from the Ares base had already prepared for the battle. As early as when they entered the villa area within 1 kilometer, Wang Long had received the message. On the several necessary roads to enter the Ares base, Ling Feng instructed Wang Long to arrange a lot of secret sentries. Once there are strangers or teams, the base can get the news in advance and prepare for countermeasures. Avoid sudden attacks by the enemy and catch them off guard. Wang Long looked at the hundreds of people who were slowly walking towards them. Each of them walked in a neat pace and dressed uniformly. He knew who these people were from their clothes. There were 4 people at the front of the team who were obviously dressed differently from the others. They should be the leaders of this group of people. They're most likely superpowers. But Wang Long was not afraid at all. His strength had already undergone earth-shaking changes. Even if he faced 4 superpowers, he was confident that he could send these people back home. And he still had a backhand. Even if he was defeated, the masters hiding in the dark could kill these people. Zhang Ergu's team soon came to a distance of about 100 meters from the gate. At this moment, a loud voice came from the direction of the gate. "This is the military jurisdiction of the God of War base. No progress." Zhang Ergu sneered at the words and continued to move forward as if he had not heard them. Wang Long's mouth curled up slightly. This group of people really came to cause trouble. He gave the order directly. "Shoot," as a warning. The sentinels fired into the air without saying a word. Bang, bang, bang. 3 consecutive gunshots echoed in the air, and Zhang Ergu paused. "Anyone who takes another step forward will be killed without mercy." The cold voice came again. Zhang Ergu was frightened by the gunshot just now, and he was so angry that he cursed at the sentry directly. "Damn, you don't even recognize me, right? Open your dog eyes and see who I am. You bunch of fence-sitters, I have raised you for so long, and you just turn around and surrender to others." When Zhang Ergu said this, dozens of sentinels on the villa side suddenly looked ugly. "This dog is simply not a human being, talking nonsense. When did you, Zhang Ergu, treat us as human beings?" A sentry, the captain, walked to the front and shouted angrily. "Zhang Ergu, what bullshit are you talking about? Have you ever treated our brothers as human beings? At least we have dignity in the God of War base. Here we eat well, live well, and get respect, which is thousands of times better than your broken shelter. Brothers on the opposite side, come to our God of War base. Our brother Ma Wu has always been thinking about the brothers." The captain's words made Zhang Ergu's team of 100 people suddenly become anxious. Some voices began to appear, and many people's faces showed a hint of movement. Zhang Ergu looked very ugly when he saw this scene. "Damn, you dare to poach people in front of me. This is too bullying." Seeing that the people below had obviously changed their mood, Zhang Ergu began to reprimand the group of soldiers under him. "Be serious, everyone. I treat you well. If anyone dares to be a traitor, I will kill him," Zhang Ergu said fiercely. Although the soldiers hated Zhang Ergu in their hearts, they did not dare to show it on the surface. Wang Long looked at the performance of the soldiers on the opposite side and felt that this group of people could be won over. After all, they're all elite veterans. With a little training, they can form a strong fighting force. Wang Long walked slowly towards the opposite team alone. He stopped 10 meters away from Zhang Ergu. Zhang Ergu looked at Wang Long and asked condescendingly, "Who are you?" Wang Long looked at Zhang Ergu with an arrogant face and did not answer his question, but looked at the soldiers behind him and said loudly, "Comrades, I am the captain of the God of War combat team, and I was also a soldier. I sincerely invite you to join our team. We not only have abundant food here, but also a comfortable living environment, and give you the highest respect as a soldier." Zhang Ergu was so angry at Wang Long's words that his face turned blue. "It's okay for you to ignore my questions and answers, but you dare to poach my people in front of me. It's really too much. Boy, you are so awesome. Are you looking for death? Let your boss come out." Chapter 129. Wang Long looked at Zhang Ergu with disdain and said indifferently, "You are not qualified. You." Several superpowers standing behind Zhang Ergu stood up at this time, and one of them said to Zhang Ergu casually, "Why waste so much time talking to him? Why not just hit him directly?" The man who spoke was called Qin Xiao, the strongest among the three. After Qin Xiao finished speaking, he kicked the ground with one leg. His whole body rushed out swiftly. The strength of the superpower was fully demonstrated at this moment. Qin Xiao stretched out a fist, driving a gust of wind with amazing momentum. Seeing this scene, everyone present was shocked. Even his two companions couldn't help but sigh. Brother Chao's superpowers seem to have improved a lot. Even I find it difficult to resist. Zhang Ergu was even more excited. With such a master here, who can resist? Dare to speak arrogantly to him. This person must die today. Qin Xiao had arrived in front of Wang Long in a breath and punched him hard in the chest. Wang Long still stood there, with his hands behind his back, with no intention of attacking. Seeing that his full-strength punch was about to fall on the opponent, Qin Xiao couldn't help but grin. "Go to hell, trash." Qin Xiao's fist hit Wang Long's chest hard. Crack! A crisp sound of broken bones sounded. Then Qin Xiao flew backwards and finally hit the ground hard. At this moment, the whole audience suddenly quieted down. Only Qin Xiao's screams were echoing. Everyone opened their mouths wide, with a look of shock on their faces. What's going on? How come he was fine after being beaten, and the person who attacked flew out instead? The blow, just now, would probably have broken even a stone in half, but the man in front of him stood there, as if nothing had happened, not even moving a step. The two psychics from the storm base hurried to Qin Xiao's side to check on the situation. At this time, Qin Xiao's face was extremely distorted, and his body began to spasm due to the pain. His entire right arm was completely broken, and his right hand was bloody. There was no need for treatment at all. His right arm was disabled, and the whole person was basically disabled in half. Looking at this tragic scene, a psychic became extremely angry, and his breathing became rapid. He stood up and looked at Wang Long with a resentful look, pointing at him, and said, "You dare to hurt my people in Storm Base, you're done." Wang Long covered his chest with an exaggerated look and said with a rich expression, "I'm scared when you say that. But I didn't do anything the whole time. Everyone was watching. He was too fragile to hit me and was bounced back. It has nothing to do with me. You must have used some superpowers. If you didn't use superpowers, how could he become like this?" The superpowers shouted angrily, "Don't talk nonsense with him. Let's go together and avenge Brother Qin." Another superpower also stood up and looked at Wang Long coldly. Wang Long looked at the two with indifferent expression. "Since you want to die, come on." Arrogant. The two looked at each other and nodded slightly. One on the left and one on the right quickly came to Wang Long. Wang Long still stood in the same place. He was very confident in his strength now. His physical data has exceeded 1,000 times, and his physical fitness is terrible. In addition, his superpowers doubled his defensive capabilities, so he was not afraid of the attacks of the two superpowers. The two men moved like the wind, and in the blink of an eye they had arrived in front of Wang Long. The two men punched at the same time, blocking Wang Long's retreat. The strong and powerful fists attacked Wang Long's face and chest. Wang Long put his hands behind his back, and at the moment the fists arrived, he attacked fiercely. He held the fist of one of them with one hand, and at the same time, he kicked the stomach of the other with his right leg. Wang Long's attack was very decisive and fast, and the two superpowers had no time to react. One of the superpowers was kicked more than 10 meters away, fell to the ground, and slid more than 10 meters before stopping. The whole person lay on the ground, like a puddle of mud, without any reaction. On the other side, the superpower whose fist was tightly held by Wang Long tried to pull his fist back, but found that no matter how hard he tried, his fist could not move at all. He looked at Wang Long in horror, regretting following Zhang Ergu out today. "I'm from Storm Base. You'd better let me go. Otherwise the consequences will be unbearable." Wang Long looked at him with a playful look and broke it with his left hand. Crack! The man's wrist was broken directly. The psychic turned pale and ferocious in an instant. "Asshole, you will die." Wang Long didn't waste time talking to him, stretched out his right hand and pinched his neck. "I don't care if you are from the Storm Base. If you dare to come to our God of War base to cause trouble, you must be prepared to be killed." After that, he pinched his neck directly with his right hand and threw him aside. The people in the God of War base looked at Wang Long with admiration. They thought that Ling Feng was very strong as their leader. Today, I know that Wang Long is also very strong. The psychic can be crushed to death with a single blow. Those who can become the confidant of the leader are indeed ruthless. At this moment, Zhang Ergu was about to cry. This is completely different from the scene he imagined. Shouldn't he take 3 psychics to forcefully enter the villa area, then humiliate Ling Feng in every way, and then take Ling Feng back to report? Now the development of the situation was completely beyond his expectation. He hadn't even entered the gate yet. He hadn't even seen Ling Feng's figure, and the 3 psychics of the Storm Base were killed. Looking at Wang Long, who was constantly approaching him, his legs became weak unconsciously. "Everyone, come to me! Kill him for me, quickly!" Zhang Ergu roared at the more than 100 soldiers behind him. The soldiers, who were very obedient on weekdays, stood in place at this time, looking at him coldly, and no one took action. "You bastards! I told you to take action!" Zhang Ergu shouted at the group of people with a crazy face, but all he got was silence and cold eyes. Zhang Ergu was desperate. He felt that death was getting closer and closer to him. Wang Long's slow footsteps were like a series of death calls, constantly hitting his fragile heart. He completely collapsed, sitting on the ground with limp legs. He didn't even have the courage to fight Wang Long. Wang Long stood in front of Zhang Ergu, his eyes full of contempt. A dignified superpower. He didn't even have the courage to draw his sword. "I really don't know how such a coward can control a shelter." Seeing an unknown liquid flowing out between Zhang Ergu's legs, Wang Long frowned and covered his nose. "What a waste! Let you live a little longer." Chapter 130. Ling Feng stood on the training ground, watching the soldiers training, and occasionally pointed out some things. Just now, he learned from Ma Wu that a group of uninvited guests came outside the base, and Wang Long, the captain of the special brigade, had dealt with them immediately. Ling Feng didn't care much about it. With Wang Long's current strength, it is more than enough to deal with ordinary superpowered people, and he doesn't need to worry at all. With his physique of more than 1,000, if he can't even handle this, he might as well find a piece of tofu and die. After a while, Wang Long led more than 100 unfamiliar faces and walked towards the training ground in a mighty manner. Wang Long was holding a terrified man in his hand. The team came to Ling Feng and stopped at Wang Long's signal. Wang Long threw Zhang Ergu casually, and Zhang Ergu fell directly in front of Ling Feng. "Zhang Ergu, the leader of the official base," Wang Long said casually. Ling Feng raised his eyebrows, looking a little surprised. Ling Feng looked at Zhang Ergu, who was lying on the ground like a dead ash. He looked embarrassed, and it was hard to associate him with the leader of a base. Ling Feng said with a faint smile, "You are Zhang Ergu. We finally meet." Zhang Ergu looked at the man in front of him and paused. He said in a trembling voice, You are Ling Feng? Yes, haven't you been looking for me?" Although Zhang Ergu was afraid, he still mustered up the courage to say it. "Yes, I dream of finding you, but I am here to represent the Storm Base today." Ling Feng was a little surprised by this. How did this Zhang Ergu get involved with the people of the Storm Base again? "Tell me, what do you want to talk to me about?" Ling Feng said calmly. Zhang Ergu looked at Ling Feng, who looked calm, and didn't seem to be surprised that he represented the Storm Base. A bad thought flashed through his mind. Zhang Tsong from Storm Base asked me to tell you something, hoping you can join Storm Base. Zhang Ergo didn't tell him Zhang Tsong's original words, otherwise he might lose his life. Ling Feng stood there without saying anything, which made Zhang Ergo sweat. He quickly continued, "Of course, if you don't want to, Storm Base won't force you." Ling Feng looked at Zhang Ergo with a playful look on his face and said with a smile on his face, "Did he really say that?" Really, I said the original words," Zhang Ergo said with a panicked look. He wanted to leave now if he could. Ling Feng pondered for a moment and asked, "Where is that Zhang Tsong now?" "Inside our shelter. He has been waiting for me to report back." Zhang Ergo's implication was that I was from Storm Base, and this time I represented Storm Base, and if I didn't want to offend Storm Base, I'd better let me go. After hearing what he said, Ling Feng's eyes lit up, and he said to Wang Long, "Pick 100 soldiers with the best strength and have them gather here." Wang Long nodded and took Ma Wu to work. After a while, people gathered around him on the training ground. 100 people are here," Wang Long whispered beside Ling Feng. Ling Feng nodded slightly. "I'll take these soldiers and Lao Ma to Zhang Ergo's base later. You stay at home." Zhang Ergo, who was standing aside, was shocked when he heard this. What does Ling Feng want to do? He doesn't want to attack my shelter. It's a bit unrealistic for him to occupy my shelter with just these 100 people, not to mention the solid defense and powerful artillery of my shelter. The few superpowers in the Storm Base alone are not simple. Isn't this a pure act of seeking death? Thinking of this, Zhang Ergo was delighted. It seemed that Ling Feng was also an egomaniac. Ling Feng looked at Zhang Ergo, who was standing aside with his eyebrows lowered and his eyes lowered, and slapped him to death without hesitation. Zhang Ergo died without even a scream. The soldiers on the training ground felt much more comfortable when they saw Zhang Ergo being slapped to death. The psychic who had exploited them was finally dead. At the same time, they also respected Ling Feng more. The commander, who was extremely powerful in their eyes before, was just a fly that could be slapped to death at will in Ling Feng's hands. Ling Feng looked at the assembled team and said loudly, "Today, we assemble you mainly for one thing, that is to attack the official shelter. You are all carefully selected elites. Today is your first mission and the first mission of our Ares base. I hope don't embarrass me. You may meet your former comrades later. Those who agree to join the God of War base can be spared. Those who resist will be killed. Do you understand?" The soldiers shouted in unison. "Understand." Ling Feng walked to an open space and took out an all-terrain snowmobile directly from the space, as well as 100 snowmobiles. These snowmobiles were bought by Ling Feng before the end of the world. At that time, he bought a total of 10. One of them was upgraded by him, and the rest were all copied 100 times by him. He didn't want to walk with this group of soldiers. It was a waste of time. The soldiers looked at the 100 brand new snowmobiles that suddenly appeared, and they were all surprised. Their leader always brings them surprises. And these motorcycles look so handsome. They are simply dream cars. One for each person. Get ready to go. The soldiers cheered and rushed to the snowmobiles, stroking them lovingly. It was like a child who found a new toy. Ling Feng smiled lightly. This scene was quite interesting. Ling Feng walked to his all-terrain snowmobile and threw the key directly to Ma Wu. "You drive." Then he sat in the passenger seat. Soon the team was ready. The snowmobile Ling Feng was riding was the lead vehicle, and the 100 motorcycles behind followed neatly. The army started to set off. At this time, in the official shelter, Zhang Tsong leaned on the sofa, his eyes slightly closed, enjoying the girl's massage. He enjoyed life here very much. He was just a captain-level, middle-level manager in the Storm Base. The treatment he enjoyed was completely different from here. Here he was the supreme king. He could dominate the life and death of anyone. It was a pity that such a life will be over in a few days. Once Ling Feng surrenders to the Storm Base, their mission this time will be over. Although Zhao Wuji and several psychics died, the base is still very happy to recover a more powerful psychic. In his opinion, no one dares to go against the Storm Base, and Ling Feng will definitely obey. Just when he was still fantasizing about how to apply to the superiors to stay in this place after returning, a team member hurriedly walked in. Captain, it's bad. A troop came outside and is attacking the shelter. Chapter 131. Zhang Tsung's expression changed, and he slowly opened his eyes. He said in a very calm tone, "Attacked? Could this Zhang Erge have any enemies? Let's go and take a look." At the entrance of the shelter on the other side, Ling Feng stood not far from the shelter, and behind him, 100 members of the God of War Squadron stood in scattered positions. Ling Feng had just acquired the name of the God of War Squadron, and he hoped that every soldier would be a God of War-level existence. At the entrance of the shelter, 120 soldiers stood with live ammunition, looking at the group of uninvited guests with serious expressions. The door behind them had been closed, and once the fight started, they had no way out. Either destroy the enemy or die in battle. The members of the God of War Squadron looked at their former teammates who had now become enemies, and their expressions were inevitably a little complicated. Ma Wu stood next to Ling Feng, and he had always hoped to resolve this matter peacefully. The shelter had been oppressed by Zhang Ergu, and now that Zhang Ergu was dead, they should be liberated. Ma Wu stepped forward and said sincerely to the group of former comrades in front of him, "Brothers, Zhang Ergu is dead. We don't need to work for him anymore." This news shocked the soldiers directly, and there was a commotion in the crowd. They couldn't believe how a powerful superpower could die. They saw with their own eyes that when the Lord set out in the morning, there were 3 superpowers and more than 100 special forces following him. One of the captain-level soldiers asked in disbelief, "Brother Ma, don't lie to the brothers. The Lord brought so many powerful people with him. How could he die just like that? Don't try to lie to us. Attack the shelter. For the sake of our comrades, you should leave quickly." Just when Ma Wu was about to say something, the door of the shelter slowly opened. A man with a cold look walked out of the door, followed by 3 men with arrogant expressions, each of whom was extraordinary and could be seen as a superpower. Zhang Tsung walked out of the shelter and looked at the team in front with interest. Judging from the way these people were dressed, they were also a group of soldiers, and their momentum was obviously stronger than the people here. Obviously, they were not ordinary soldiers. Even their storm base did not have such an army. Zhang Tsung became more and more curious. "Which base are you from?" Zhang Tsung said with a cold expression. "Are you from Storm Base?" Ling Feng looked at Zhang Tsung in the distance and asked lightly. Zhang Tsung was a little surprised when he heard this. He didn't expect that this person actually knew him, but he didn't seem to know him. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration, as if he thought of something. "Are you Ling Feng?" Ling Feng's mouth curled up slightly, with a hint of appreciation in his expression. "Smart. You can guess this." Zhang Tsung looked behind him and didn't find Zhang Ergu and others. A bad idea flashed through his mind. He stared at Ling Feng and said sternly, "You killed Zhang Ergu and the others?" "Yes." Zhang Tsung's expression suddenly darkened. He didn't feel bad about Zhang Ergu's death, but the other 3 were his confidants. The members of their team had a deep relationship and had carried out many missions, and they cooperated very well. "I thought it was just a simple mission, but I didn't expect that everyone would die. This Ling Feng deserves to die. Do you know the consequences of offending my storm base?" Zhang Tsung looked at Ling Feng fiercely. Ling Feng looked indifferent and casually picked his ears. "I don't know what the consequences will be. People who talk to me like this usually die." Zhang Tsung smiled coldly, looking at Ling Feng with murderous intent in his eyes. "I admit that you are very strong. I guess I am not your opponent, but you will still die. The strength of the storm base is beyond your imagination. I have sent all your information to the headquarters. I believe someone will come to you soon." Ling Feng snorted coldly when he heard this. "My strength is beyond your imagination. Even if all of you storm base are dispatched, I am not afraid." Zhang Tsung walked out of the crowd slowly and walked towards Ling Feng. "You killed Zhao Wuji too. It seems that you have a great opportunity in Wangzhuang Mine. Let me see how strong you are." Zhang Tsung kicked the ground with one leg, and the whole person was as fast as lightning, and his body disappeared instantly. His right hand became a claw, and the nails on his hand instantly became longer, and the color of the nails also changed from translucent white to a strange blood red. His figure quickly came in front of Ling Feng and grabbed Ling Feng's neck fiercely. The speed of the shot was almost indistinguishable to the naked eye, and it came in an instant, making it almost impossible to chop it off. But unexpectedly, something incredible happened just when he thought he was about to hit. He felt that his abdomen was suddenly attacked violently, making him unstable instantly. Bang! Zhang Tsung flew backwards and hit the ground heavily, spurting blood from his mouth miserable. He felt that his internal organs were displaced. The other 3 superpowers in the storm base looked at this scene with horror. They knew Zhang Tsung's strength, and he was ranked among the top in the entire base. It can be said that he was invincible under the superpower, but he couldn't resist even one round in Ling Feng's hands. It was really terrible. At this time, Zhang Tsung coughed violently, struggled to stand up, and the look in his eyes when he looked at Ling Feng had been replaced by horror. Ling Feng's strength far exceeded his expectations. He is not only a superpowered person, but also one of the top superpowered people. This kind of person is an enemy of the base, which may be a disaster for the base. Ling Feng, you are very strong. My storm base admits defeat. We promise you that we will not pursue this matter, Zhang Tsung said with a somewhat ugly look. Ling Feng looked at him with a mocking face. How can I not pursue it? I killed so many of you. Can you swallow this breath? Zhang Tsung held back the rage in his heart and said with gritted teeth, this society is originally the strong are respected. Being killed can only mean that they are too useless. Ling Feng slowly came in front of him and said coldly, I still understand the principle of cutting the grass and eradicating the roots. You. Zhang Tsung was shocked and wanted to escape. Unfortunately, it was too late. Ling Feng directly released the gravity field. Crack! Zhang Tsung was directly crushed into pieces by the powerful gravity, and blood and flesh splattered in an instant, and there was a trace of heat. This horrifying scene made everyone present sweat profusely. Seeing this, the 3 superpowers in the storm base had no intention of fighting and started running away. Ling Feng stretched out his hand in midair and grasped the 3 people. The bodies of the 3 people suddenly floated up uncontrollably. Chapter 132. Ling Feng looked at the 3 terrified psychics in front of him and moved his fingers lightly. The bodies of the 3 people instantly turned into a pool of mud. The remaining soldiers in the official base were all dumbfounded. The psychic who was so powerful just now turned into this miserable state in just a few minutes. In their eyes, the powerful psychic was like an ant in the hands of this man. Is he a man or a god? One of the soldiers couldn't help but say. Everyone looked at Ling Feng with fear in their eyes. The team leader who had just spoken to Ma Wu swallowed hard, and there was no doubt in his heart at this time. Zhang Erge might really be dead. Even the people in the storm base were not his opponents, and there was no possibility that Zhang Erge would survive. Ling Feng's eyes swept across the crowd coldly, and the soldiers' faces turned pale. Zhang Erge and the people in the storm base are dead. Do you still want to resist? Ling Feng straightened his clothes and said coldly. Ma Wu also stood up and said at this time, Brothers, our leader is a very protective person. Joining our Ares base will only benefit you. The crowd began to stir, and many people began to whisper to each other. Ma Wu should not lie to us. Just surrender. We are just ordinary people. Stubborn resistance will only bring greater casualties. Zhang Erge is finally dead. God has eyes. I have long disliked these people from the storm base. They are too arrogant. Just when everyone was undecided, a loud shout suddenly came from the crowd. I, Lu Feng, am willing to join. A sturdy soldier walked to the front of the team and threw away the gun in his hand. I, Zhang Long, will join too. I, Zhao Hu, will join too. With the first person joining, more and more soldiers chose to join the Ares base. The people who were still looking around finally chose to join after seeing the situation. In this way, Ling Feng took down the shelter without a single soldier. Ling Feng led the members of the God of War base to enter the shelter. Under Ma Wu's guidance, Ling Feng first came to the core area of the entire shelter, where Zhang Erge lived before. This location is at the deepest part of the entire shelter, and the area accounts for about 1/5 of the entire shelter. Zhang Erge named it Area 1. After a tour, Ling Feng couldn't help but sigh at the luxury here. In terms of luxury, it is many times better than Ling Feng's villa. Even the toilet in the bathroom is made of pure gold. There are more than 100 servants alone, and all of them are young and beautiful girls. Zhang Erge lives alone in the huge area of Area 1, and the facilities here are very complete. There are not only regular office locations such as reception rooms, study rooms, and office rooms, but also entertainment venues such as waterbed rooms, game rooms, and esports rooms. There is even a small golf course inside. Even the restaurants are divided into Western restaurants and Chinese restaurants, which are equipped with professional chefs and nutritionists. Each venue has 3 to 5 dedicated service personnel. In Zhang Erge's storage room, Ling Feng found a large number of expensive cigarettes, alcohol, cigars, and a large number of imported snacks. This Zhang Erge really knows how to enjoy himself. Ling Feng sighed. After visiting Area 1, Ling Feng continued to check Area 2. Area 2 is adjacent to Area 1, and it is mainly inhabited by soldiers, senior executives of the shelter, and some high-end talents. The area here is not large, mainly some barracks and training grounds. Ling Feng is most interested in the equipment warehouse here. Ling Feng came to the equipment warehouse under the leadership of Ma Wu. The moment he saw the equipment inside, Ling Feng's mouth opened directly. The fear of insufficient firepower was immediately reduced. The equipment warehouse is full of various weapons and equipment. 120 tanks, 200 howitzers, 800 drones, 80 infantry fighting vehicles, anti-aircraft missiles, etc. In addition, there are a large number of rifles, heavy machine guns, submachine guns, etc. Ling Feng stroked these equipments with a smile on his face. These are the most important things in a base. Fortunately, they did not use these equipments when they attacked his villa before, otherwise he would be in trouble. Mainly because of the extremely cold weather, the roads are slippery and these equipments cannot be used for long distances. Ling Feng decided to deploy these equipments on the ground when the time comes, so that he can quickly attack the invading enemies. Thinking of this, Ling Feng put all these equipments into the space to upgrade and increase their power. This level of weapon can pose a great threat even to people with special abilities. After visiting Area 2, Ling Feng came to Area 3, which is the largest area in the entire shelter. As soon as he entered Area 3, the atmosphere was obviously different. A feeling of depression permeated the entire area. First of all, the lights here are very dim, and you can barely see people. Secondly, the rooms here are very small. A room with an area of only 10 square meters is occupied by more than a dozen people. During this period of time, all residents in Area 3 are working. They work 18 hours a day, and there is only one meal a day, and the food is biscuits and nutrient solution produced by the shelter itself. Ling Feng followed Ma Wu to their workplace. In a room covering an area of tens of thousands of square meters, there are thousands of spinning bikes, each of which is connected to a wire. On each bike, there is a person staring at the bike hard. There is also a dynamic DJ in the room, stimulating everyone's nerves. Ling Feng looked at this shocking scene, thousands of people pedaling at the same time. If he hadn't known in advance that these people were generating electricity by riding, he would have thought that these people were exercising. Everyone had a numb expression on their face, and their empty eyes had no expression, looking like an emotionless generator. This was their only job every day, responsible for supplying electricity to the entire shelter. Many of them were high-ranking government officials and wealthy people before the end of the world, but now they can only exchange for a meal of biscuits that can only fill their stomachs by constantly pedaling. Ling Feng left after watching for a while. He didn't intend to change anything, at most just reduce their working hours and improve their meals. Ling Feng came to the cafeteria in District 3, where the chefs were preparing today's meals. A chef took out a white plastic bucket filled with an unknown liquid from under the operating table, and then poured the liquid in the bucket evenly into 3 large basins. Then he took out 3 bags of fruit powder with different flavors and poured them into the large basins filled with liquid one by one. Stir evenly. This way, a nutrient solution is ready. Chapter 133. Ling Feng walked to the operation room with some curiosity to check. These white barrels are filled with some very viscous white liquid, which smells a bit fishy. However, after adding some fruit powder, the fragrance of the fruit powder can well cover up the fishy smell. What is this thing made of? Ling Feng asked. This... The chef looked at Ling Feng and hesitated and did not dare to answer. Seeing this, Ma Wu on the side said directly in a stern tone, "This is the new leader of the shelter. Answer honestly." The chef was shocked when he heard it. He did not expect that he would meet the leader of the shelter. He lowered his head in a hurry and said nervously, "The raw material of this nutrient solution is cockroaches, which are processed into nutrient solution by machines." The chef answered honestly, "What about those biscuits? What are they made of?" Ling Feng pointed to the black biscuits behind the chef. "Those cookies are also made of cockroaches." Ling Feng frowned after hearing this and felt a little sick in his stomach. When he thought that these people were eating cockroaches every day, he felt a little uncomfortable. Ma Wu, who was standing behind him, also looked a little ugly. After all, cockroaches looked disgusting, and now they were being used as food. Ling Feng didn't say anything and turned away. Although there were a lot of food in his space, he couldn't take them all out for these people to eat. In the end times, food is the most important thing, and these precious resources must be given priority to soldiers and important people. As for the people in the 3rd district, he will find a way to improve their meals later. Afterwards, Ling Feng visited a small food processing plant and a small arsenal in the shelter in turn, but these equipment were basically in a state of suspension. Now there are insufficient resources, and these equipment are basically unusable. After visiting all the places in the shelter, Ling Feng also had a basic understanding of the structure of the entire shelter. It has to be said that this shelter is very solid, scientifically designed, and fully functional. It can accommodate 10,000 people living here normally. Ling Feng decided to move the headquarters of the God of War base here. In addition, he also wanted to improve the entire base. Build a military base above the shelter. Ling Feng sat on Zhang Erge's leather sofa and smoked cigarettes leisurely. Ma Wu stood in front of Ling Feng. "Old Ma, have you found Yang Zihan?" Ling Feng said in a light tone. Since his villa was continuously attacked by Zhang Erge's people, Ling Feng suspected that there must be someone who was high profile. Otherwise, how could these people come so far to attack his villa? But he couldn't make up his mind who the informant was. But since Ma Wu surrendered to him, he knew that it was a beautiful woman next to Zhang Erge who told him. He was sure that it was Yang Zihan. Before, Yang Zihan disappeared after killing Niu Xian, the boss of the Qinglong gang. Ling Feng originally thought that he was killed by Ling Kur. Unexpectedly, she actually ran here and colluded with Zhang Erge. Therefore, Ling Feng asked Ma Wu to arrange for someone to find Yang Zihan as soon as he entered the shelter. "Chief, I asked the brothers guarding the gate. Yang Zihan had left the shelter this morning and said that she was going to find Zhang Erge." Ma Wu replied. Ling Feng frowned. He originally wanted to kill Yang Zihan directly. Unexpectedly, she ran away this time. Forget about it if she left. Let's talk about it next time we meet, Ling Feng said helplessly. "By the way, Lao Ma, I have to go back to Zizhuan and bring back all the people over there. You take the rest of the people to maintain order here. I think I can get here tomorrow. Before I come back, those diehards left by Zhang Erge and those who have done many evil things should be dealt with as soon as possible," Ling Feng said with a somewhat cold look. "Yes, I'll take care of it later." A hint of murderous intent flashed in Ma Wu's eyes. Ling Feng patted Ma Wu's shoulder and left. After Ling Feng left, Ma Wu led 100 members of the God of War squadron to start the bloody cleanup. All those who had helped Zhang Erge to commit atrocities were arrested. Ma Wu stood on the high platform of the training ground with a solemn expression. Under the high platform, dozens of high-ranking officials of the shelter stood there with pale faces. Some people also stood there with a proud look, as if they were not afraid of this scene. "Why are you arresting me? I am the head of the shelter, the second lord of the shelter. Do you understand the rules?" A defiant voice came from outside. Then a fat, middle-aged man walked in, with two soldiers pressing his shoulders. The middle-aged man had an angry face, and his tone was full of the attitude of a superior. The middle-aged man was called Zhang Daniu, a friend of Zhang Ergu. After Zhang Ergu became the actual controller of the shelter, he promoted Zhang Daniu to the second person in the shelter. This man and Zhang Ergu have the same character. A poor man suddenly became rich. Relying on Zhang Ergu's backing, he did not do good things all day long, eating, drinking, and having fun, and colluding with Zhang Ergu. This man is also the #1 person in this liquidation operation. Zhang Daniu didn't know that the entire shelter had changed hands at this time. When the members of the God of War squadron found him just now, he was still sleeping soundly in his bed with 3 girls in his arms. Zhang Daniu looked at Ma Wu and suddenly showed a look of realization. "It turned out to be you. Your name is Ma Wu, right? You dare to catch me. Are you tired of living? Believe it or not, I will let Ergu destroy you," Zhang Daniu said threateningly. Ma Wu looked at Zhang Daniu with some contempt and smiled coldly. "Zhang Ergu is dead. If you want to complain to him, you can only go to the King of Hell." Zhang Daniu was shocked when he heard this, but he still didn't dare to believe it. He said hesitantly, "Are you kidding? Ergu is a powerful superpower. Who can kill him?" Ma Wu looked at him coldly and said, "Do you think I'm kidding?" Ma Wu didn't bother to be polite with him. He waved his hand directly, and hundreds of soldiers directly controlled dozens of shelter executives in the field. "According to the commander, you guys have done many evil things and should be shot," Ma Wu said coldly. As soon as these words came out, the people below were immediately horrified. Some of the timid ones could not stand and collapsed to the ground. Zhang Daniu was so scared that he trembled all over and sweated profusely. "Take them out!" Ma Wu gave an order, and dozens of senior officials were held by the arms by the soldiers and walked out of the shelter. Mortals were taken to the open space outside the shelter. At the same time, there were thousands of ordinary people from the shelter who came to watch. At this time, their faces were full of anger. Chapter 134. Dozens of high-ranking officials knelt on the cold snow, each with a look of fear on their faces. Around these people who came to watch the excitement gathered and pointed at these officials. "Isn't that Zhang Daniu? How come he was also arrested? I heard that the Lord was killed, and our shelter has a new owner. Well, who cares who he is? Anyway, we're the people at the bottom, so we have to do what we should do. Anyway, these dozens of people in front should have died long ago, and we can get rid of our anger." Ma Wu stood in front with a serious face, facing the crowd, and said loudly, "Silence." The surrounding voices stopped abruptly. Ma Wu glanced at the crowd and continued, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am the Deputy Captain of the Special Operations Brigade of the God of War Base. I hereby announce that from today on, this place will be renamed the God of War Base, and the leader of the base is Mr. Ling Feng. In addition, the people in front of you were all Zhang Ergu's confidants before. They helped Zhang Ergu do all kinds of bad things and deserve to be punished. Today we will shoot them in public here to serve as a warning to others." After Ma Wu finished speaking, he turned around and said in a cold voice, "Get ready." Dozens of soldiers immediately pointed their guns at the heads of these senior officials. These senior officials immediately looked ashen. Their bodies kept shaking, and some of the timid ones fainted directly. Some were scared to pee their pants. Zhang Daniu wanted to stand up like a madman, and he was still screaming in his mouth. "I want to see your leader. I have important information to reveal." The 2 soldiers standing next to him immediately held him down to prevent him from moving. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I really have important information," Zhang Daniu begged with a horrified face. Ma Wu looked at this scene expressionlessly. His heart was calm. Then he said with a determined face, "Execute." The sound of gunfire rang out one after another on the field. The officials kneeling on the ground fell down one by one. "Okay, I don't know who said it," and the crowd immediately burst into applause. Ling Feng, who left the shelter, drove an all-terrain snowmobile all the way to Zizhuan. He had to take the team to the new base as soon as possible and take defensive measures. The people from the Liu family, the Kai family, and the Storm base would probably come soon. The car drove at high speed for half an hour and finally arrived at the villa area. Ling Feng called Wang Long and told him about the move this time, and asked him to assemble the troops and supplies as quickly as possible. After receiving Ling Feng's order, Wang Long made arrangements immediately. Afterwards, Ling Feng returned to the villa and stood in front of the three-story villa. He decided to try to put the villa into the space. He called Lin Su out of the space because the space could not hold living things. In fact, he was not sure about putting the villa into the space. After all, the area of the villa was too large, and he had never taken such a large thing. However, the whole villa had been transformed into a hole before, so theoretically there should be no problem. Ling Feng walked to the outer wall of the villa, put his hand on the wall, and at the same time, he had an idea in his mind. Whoosh! With a sound, the three-story villa in front of him and Wang Long's villa next door disappeared instantly. On the ground, there was only a huge pit several meters deep, and the original appearance could no longer be seen. The sentry standing guard at the door of the villa was stunned by Ling Feng's operation. "It's amazing!" The veteran Chen Shan of the sentry squad exclaimed subconsciously. At the same time, the two villas in the space floated quietly in the space. "It really works?" Ling Feng was very happy. In this way, there would be no worries about moving tomorrow. In the space, Ling Feng upgraded the villa. The villa, which could withstand the attack of small nuclear bombs, has now been upgraded 100 times. The defense capability has reached an immeasurable level. Ling Feng put the villa back to its original place. After returning to the villa, Ling Feng lay on the sofa. "After a busy day, I can finally have a good rest." Storm base. Chun Gingyin sat in his leather chair, tapping the table with his fingers. There was no expression on his face. Just now, he received a report from the captain of the Special Forces team that the investigation team sent by the base had lost contact. The last message sent by Zhang Tsung said, "The murderer is Ling Feng. This person is very powerful and is probably a superpowered person. I want to negotiate with him now." At the same time, Zhang Tsung also sent a location. "Leader, what action should we take now? Zhang Tsung and the others may be in danger." Gu Fei's expression was full of anxiety. All the people he lost were trained by him, and every loss made him bleed. He wanted to take people to kill Ling Feng immediately. Revenge for the brothers. Chun Gingyin, who was sitting on the chair, was much calmer, and his expression was always calm. At present, Ling Feng is very strong, and we must make a foolproof plan. After a moment of silence, Chun Gingyin slowly spoke. "Since Ling Feng is so difficult to deal with, we can't deal with this person in a conventional way." Gu Fei looked at Chun Gingyin with some confusion and asked with some doubt, "Leader, what do you mean?" Chun Gingyin smiled faintly and said coldly, "Find the Kai family and the Liu family and attack Ling Feng with them. And tell their family that we don't want anything, just Ling Feng's head. We can provide tanks and weapons and ammunition. At the same time, send another team to monitor, but do not confront them head-on." After receiving the order, Gu Fei left in a hurry. Only Chun Gingyin was left in the room. Chun Gingyin lit a cigarette and slowly exhaled the smoke. A trace of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. In a remote wilderness in Shanjing City, a young and beautiful girl walked on the cold road. The girl's eyes were firm, and her face was full of resentment. "Zhang Ergu, Ling Feng, I will not let you go," Yang Zihan said with a face full of resentment. Just this morning, he used his identity as Zhang Ergu's woman to successfully leave the shelter. Get freedom. She awakened her superpowers, and her body seemed to have endless energy at this moment. Even after walking for half a day, she was still not tired at all. At this time, she had walked to the edge of Shanjing City and then to Suang City. Suang City is the most economically developed area in the entire Handong province, of course before the end of the world. I just don't know what the situation is now. I must create a force of my own. Yang Zihan clenched her fists, kept cheering herself up in her heart, and continued on her way. Chapter 135. The next morning, Ling Feng stretched comfortably. He had been in all kinds of troubles these days, and today he finally had a good sleep. He came to the restaurant downstairs, and Lin Su was busy making breakfast. Seeing Ling Feng coming, Lin Su said while cooking, "Wait a little longer, breakfast will be ready soon." "Okay." Ling Feng took out a top-grade inner pill from the space and threw it into his mouth. The inner pill turned into a warm current and flowed into the body, constantly transforming the body. Yesterday, he harvested 8 inner pills. It's just right to take advantage of this time to strengthen his strength. At present, his strength has reached 3,300 times, which can kill a superpower person in seconds. However, there will be more and more enemies in the future, and he also needs to continuously improve his strength. 3 minutes later, the energy of the top-grade inner pill slowly disappeared. Ling Feng could feel that his strength had increased a little bit. It can reach about 3,400 times. As his strength continued to improve, the speed at which his body digested the inner elixir became faster and faster. After absorbing an inner elixir, Lin Su also brought breakfast to the table. After a simple breakfast, Ling Feng took Lin Su out of the villa. Outside the villa, 380 soldiers from the base had assembled under the leadership of Wang Long and were ready to set off at any time. Ling Feng put the entire villa back into the space again. At the same time, he took out more than 300 snowmobiles and distributed them to each soldier. As for the natives of Zizuan, Ling Feng only planned to take away the 2 brothers Zhang Ning and Zhang En. The 2 of them were very experienced in infrastructure. Ling Feng was going to upgrade and reinforce the shelter next, and the 2 of them just happened to be useful. As for the other people in the villa area, Ling Feng did not plan to take them away. Let them make a living. I had been very kind to them before. After everything was ready, Ling Feng gave an order. Hundreds of motorcycles started at the same time. The huge roar sounded particularly shocking. Ling Feng's all-terrain snowmobile moved slowly under the escort of a group of motorcycles. The natives in the villa area looked at the slowly moving army of motorcycles, and their hearts were mixed. Ling Feng's departure meant that they lost the protection of force. At the same time, they also lost their food source. Although they were angry at Ling Feng's ruthless behavior, they did not dare to criticize him. They had seen Ling Feng's cruelty. He would chop people if they disagreed. They dared not touch this bad luck. What they should consider most now is how to face the dangers and lack of food in the outside world. The team of the God of War base rushed all the way and soon walked out of the city. When the convoy entered the vicinity of Hujiazwang, it encountered an obstacle. On a road outside Hujiazwang village, a team of more than a dozen people stopped the people of the God of War base. They held various weapons, iron rods, shovels, wooden sticks. Ling Feng, who was sitting in the car, suddenly felt that the car stopped moving, and then opened the door and went forward to check. Just in front of the road, the villagers of Hujiazwang, holding weapons, looked at them with indignation, and they were still roaring. Wang Long was negotiating with them. Ling Feng approached to check the situation. Seeing Ling Feng coming, Wang Long hurried to meet him and explain the situation. Fengzi, this group of people said that the people in the official shelter took away all their food and promised to take them to the shelter. As a result, the food was taken away, but the official people disappeared. Just now, they saw the uniforms of our soldiers and recognized them at a glance. Now they ask us to take them to the shelter. Ling Feng frowned after listening to Wang Long's explanation. This matter is probably done by Long Hao. Long Hao is dead. Now they still want to follow us to the shelter. It's just a dream. Ling Feng didn't have a good impression of the people in this village. They went to the villa to make trouble for him many times before, hoping to get supplies from him. Now they want to follow him back to the base. Huh, daydreaming, Ling Feng said coldly. Tell them that it was the official shelter that took their food, not our Ares base. If they still block the road, just shoot them to warn them. If that doesn't work, just shoot them to death. After that, Ling Feng returned to the car. After a while, after a few gunshots, there were several more bodies on both sides of the road. The team began to move forward. The journey was very smooth afterwards, and the team arrived at the shelter smoothly. At the entrance of the shelter, Ma Wu and the members of the Ares team had been waiting there. Seeing the arrival of the large army, Ma Wu strode to the front of Ling Feng's car. "Leader, some dishonest people in the base. All the people have been cleared out, and it is safe to enter now," Ma Wu said respectfully. Ling Feng nodded with satisfaction. Ma Wu's work made him feel very relieved and reliable. "You arrange a place for the brothers to live first. I still have some things to deal with." Ma Wu nodded and left. Ling Feng opened the car door and took Lin Su to wander around. The entire shelter was built on the mountain, and the shelter was built at the foot of the mountain. In front of the shelter is a plain, and Ling Feng plans to build a villa here. For the shelter, Ling Feng is not going to live in it. After upgrading, his villa can be said to be the safest place in the world, much safer than the shelter. In addition, the shelter is underground, and living in it always feels depressed. He still likes this kind of house where you can see the scenery outside at any time. Ling Feng placed his villa 200 meters away from the entrance of the shelter. In this way, they can take care of each other. No matter which party is in danger, the other party can rush over quickly. Villa in front of the base. Ling Feng planned to build a military base and place all the large weapons here. However, the construction process must be a big project. Moreover, it is the end of the world, resources are scarce, and the environment is relatively bad. However, this is something that must be done. In order to ensure the safety of the base, a strong military base must be built. Ling Feng took Wang Long and Zhang Ning to conduct on-site surveys and finally determined the location of the military base. The subsequent construction was mainly responsible for Wang Long and Zhang's brothers. Ling Feng's main task is to find materials for building the base. After solving the problem of the military base, Ling Feng came to Zhang Erge's previous office again. Last time in this office, he vaguely saw a list of high-tech talents, but he didn't have time to check it because he was in a hurry. Today, I just want to take a closer look. Ling Feng found the list and looked through it carefully. Soon one of the names caught his attention. Name: Wang Jianan, famous agronomist. Ling Feng has been thinking about how to grow food in the end times so that he won't eat up all the food. Maybe Wang Jianan can take the lead in researching it. Chapter 136. Ling Feng picked up the satellite phone and contacted Ma Wu, asking him to bring Wang Jianan over. About 10 minutes later, Ma Wu walked in with a haggard old man. The old man was about 60 years old, thin, with only skin and bones left, and his mental state was very bad. His empty eyes were lifeless. Ling Feng looked at the old man in front of him with some surprise. He thought that the high-tech talents in the manual should be treated well. But from the current situation, this is not the case. After seeing Ling Feng, Wang Jianan's expression did not change at all, and he still looked normal. As one of the first people to enter the shelter, he witnessed the replacement of personnel in the shelter and changed the owner twice. He had actively suggested to the leaders of the shelter many times before that they invest resources to study the growth of plants in extremely cold environments, but all of them were rejected. Every leader is obsessed with plundering resources and greed for pleasure. Now he has given up the idea of research and just mechanically does the most basic work every day, struggling to survive. Ling Feng stood up and walked to Wang Jianan's side, saying respectfully, "You must be Mr. Wang. I have heard about your deeds a long time ago. The wheat hybridization technology you led to study before has made wheat yields soar, and the yield per mu has reached 3,000 kilograms, making outstanding contributions to the country." A trace of self-mockery flashed across Wang Jianan's face, and he said lightly, "That was all in the past. I'm just a useless old man now. Mr. Wang is not an ordinary person. The future food problem of my Ares base depends entirely on you. I plan to invite the old gentleman to participate in the research and development of food." Wang Jianan heard this, and his originally dull face was somewhat moved. He asked with some doubt, "You want to develop food planting?" Ling Feng smiled faintly and nodded. "Yes, as the extreme cold weather persists, our food problem becomes more and more serious, and the existing resources will soon run out. If we want the entire base to survive, we must conduct research on plants in extreme cold weather. This is a matter of human survival. Wang Jinan's face was full of excitement. He didn't expect that the young base leader in front of him was so wise, and his vision was much more far-sighted than the previous two people. Wang Jinan's originally numb heart gradually began to become active again. Maybe I can really continue my research work. Ling Feng looked at Wang Jinan's thoughtful expression and continued. I wonder if you are willing to join our research work, Mr. Wang. Wang Jinan's eyes were full of excitement, and he said hurriedly, I am willing to participate in the research. Ling Feng looked delighted and said respectfully, That's great. With Mr. Wang joining us, I believe our research work will be successful. What materials or researchers do you need? Just tell me. I will definitely meet your needs. In addition, I will arrange an independent residence for you. All meals will be of the highest standard. Your family will enjoy the same treatment as you. Besides these, if you have any other needs, just tell me. When Ling Feng said this, Wang Jinan was moved. Ling Feng was a person who valued these scientific research talents so much. No, this is already very good. As for researchers, I have several students who can participate in the research with me. The conditions given by Ling Feng made him very satisfied. After that, Ling Feng and Wang Jinan made some discussions on the research of wheat, rice, and other grains. The two discussed for nearly 2 hours before they ended. Ling Feng sent Wang Jinan away with a happy face. He also arranged for Ma Wu to arrange accommodation and food improvements for the people in these laboratories as soon as possible. Ling Feng looked at Ma Wu, who was still busy, and was thinking in his heart that he had to find someone to do these odd jobs for Ma Wu. Although Ma Wu was more reliable in doing things, his main responsibility was to lead the God of War Brigade. If he put too much energy on trivial matters, it would affect his main job. Lin Su was very suitable for this job, but Lin Su had to continue to develop gene serum and could not be distracted to participate in management work. The two brothers Zhang and Zhang Ning were also responsible for the infrastructure work of the base and could not participate. He really couldn't find a suitable candidate for a while. It's really not easy to find someone who is capable and trustworthy. Ling Feng thought about it again and again and felt that there was really someone who could do this job. Du Yibai. Ling Feng suddenly flashed this name. Du Yibai is the leader of the Luan base, and he had saved him before that I have seen her twice. She has no bad intentions and is straightforward in doing things. She is perfect for management work. Moreover, she is a superpower. Her superpower is very good. As long as she can be developed well, she will definitely become a superpower in the future, or even a higher level. Thinking of this, Ling Feng suddenly had an idea in his mind. It seems that he has to make another trip to talk to Du Yibai and let him join his team. After Ling Feng explained the work to Ma Wu and Wang Long, he immediately drove out on the snowmobile. Du Yibai's Luan base is located in the East District of Shanjing City. He planned to find a base there to ask. After driving the snowmobile for about an hour, Ling Feng came to the East District again. He searched along the direction of the East District and drove for another half an hour. The originally calm weather suddenly became foggy. Ling Feng had to slow down the car and walk slowly. After the car drove for a while, a figure appeared vaguely in front. From a distance, the person's appearance could not be seen clearly. Only an outline could be seen. The figure looked very tall, at least 2 meters tall, and the figure was also very strong. He wore a hat on his head, and the whole person was wrapped tightly. The figure seemed to have discovered the car and immediately waved towards this side. Ling Feng looked happy. After walking for so long, he finally met a living person. He thought about going over to inquire about the news. In this wild environment, encountering humans may be very risky, but Ling Feng relied on his strong strength and was not afraid at all. He stepped on the accelerator and drove quickly towards the direction of the figure. The car quickly came near the person, and the person stood there and kept waving at him. Ling Feng stopped the car where it was and did not rush to get off. The fog was too thick just now, and the distance was a bit far, so he did not notice anything different. Now that I was closer, I took a closer look at the person in front of me and felt that something was wrong. To be exact, this was not a person at all. Chapter 137. Looking at the thing dressed up like a human in front of him. Based on its size, Ling Feng guessed that it should be a black bear. Among many animals, only bears would use this method to deceive humans. When humans are deceived by his disguise and come to him, he will show his sharp fangs and cruelly kill people. Although the bear standing in front of the car wrapped his body tightly and could not be seen, but his two big eyes like copper bells are very different from those of humans. Ling Feng sat in the car and did not get out for a long time. The grizzly bear standing in the distance began to walk slowly to the car window and gently tapped the window, trying to get Ling Feng to roll down the window. Ling Feng looked at the grizzly bear with a smile on his face and disappeared from the seat in an instant. The grizzly bear standing outside the car opened his eyes wide and flashed a trace of doubt. It couldn't help but carefully check inside the car. After confirming that there was no one, it began to check around the car and even climbed down to check under the car. No trace was found. The grizzly bear couldn't help but be a little furious, and his pupils began to turn a little scarlet. Two powerful forearms began to slap the car door and glass, trying to break the door. The upgraded snowmobile door is 100 times stronger than steel, and the grizzly bear's attack has no effect at all. Standing in the mist in the distance, Ling Feng looked at the crazy grizzly bear as if he was watching a play. Because the movement was too violent, the clothes on the grizzly bear were also torn, revealing the fat and furry body inside. Ling Feng looked at the two paws of the grizzly bear and drooled involuntarily. Before, the grizzly bear was a protected animal, and killing wild animals was a crime. But now it is the end of the world. Killing is commonplace, not to mention a mutant grizzly bear. Ling Feng whistled at the crazy grizzly bear. Here, the grizzly bear, which was smashing the car crazily, looked over and saw Ling Feng, who was mocking him. He immediately showed his fierceness, got on all fours, and ran towards Ling Feng quickly. The grizzly bear jumped high and pounced on Ling Feng. The two front paws stretched out sharp claws, shining coldly and oppressive. It can be imagined that if an ordinary person faced this claw, he would probably be torn in half. Ling Feng was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that the grizzly bear, which looked extremely clumsy, was actually very fast and very agile. Facing the sharp claws of the grizzly bear, Ling Feng slightly turned sideways and dodged. The grizzly bear's fierce attack was in vain. It turned around and continued to attack Ling Feng. Ling Feng snapped his fingers, and the gravity field was activated. The grizzly bear's running figure suddenly stopped, and the whole body collapsed to the ground. He kept roaring and struggling, and he stood up again. Ling Feng was shocked. This grizzly bear was the first creature that could withstand his gravity field. In the past, even superpowers would be crushed into a pile of minced meat when facing the gravity field. He didn't expect this bear to have such strong defense. It seems that he has to use his melee ability to deal with it. He moved and teleported behind the grizzly bear. He punched him in the head. Bang! With a loud bang, the huge body of the grizzly bear was directly punched away by Ling Feng. The grizzly bear lay on the ground in pain, rolling on the ground with its paws covering its head, but it did not die. Ling Feng was shocked again. It's not dead. His punch just now was enough to blow up a superpower person, but he didn't expect that this grizzly bear was only in pain and still alive. Ling Feng sighed in his heart. An ordinary superpowered person would probably have no choice but to run away when facing it. Ling Feng wanted to use the strange fire to cremate him directly, but he really wanted these bear paws. The grizzly bear on the ground saw how powerful Ling Feng was and hurriedly got up and tried to escape. But the huge gravity made it difficult for him to move, and he ran at a snail's pace. Ling Feng slowly came to the side of the grizzly bear. The grizzly bear's eyes were full of panic. It put its hands together and bowed to Ling Feng, begging Ling Feng to let it go. Facing the pitiful appearance of the grizzly bear, Ling Feng's heart was calm. The bear species is cunning and cruel by nature, and likes to torture and kill humans, slowly eating humans in fear and pain. I don't know how many humans this grizzly bear has eaten. Otherwise, it would not have been able to survive until now. He punched the grizzly bear on the head, and this time he did not spare any strength. The grizzly bear's head was instantly smashed into a pool of blood and flesh. The huge body fell to the ground with a bang. The egg-sized inner pill rolled to the side. Ling Feng bent down to pick up the inner pill and examined it carefully. This inner pill was bigger than the one he had obtained before. Any inner elixir is bigger than this one. The energy inside will definitely be more abundant. Ling Feng put it directly into the space to upgrade. The upgraded inner elixir comes with a double defense effect. Ling Feng was overjoyed. This effect was too amazing. If he used this inner elixir, his defense ability would probably reach an extremely terrifying level. Ling Feng returned to the car and ate the egg-sized inner elixir without hesitation. Suddenly, a strong energy began to rush through his body, and the strong energy actually produced a slight feeling of pain. This energy constantly impacted Ling Feng's limbs and bones, causing waves of white mist to emanate from his entire body. His face also became a little flushed. The whole process lasted for half an hour. After the energy slowly disappeared, Ling Feng opened his eyes. He exhaled heavily. He got out of the car, stretched his body, and all the joints in his body suddenly made crackling sounds. Feeling his current physical condition, this inner elixir gave him a nearly 600-point increase. His current strength has exceeded 4,000 times. His defense ability has doubled. Even if he is standing still now, a superpower person's full-strength attack cannot hurt him at all. In addition to physical data, the brain that had been stagnant has also improved. 82%, although it has only increased by 2%. But Ling Feng feels that his mental power has undergone a qualitative change. First of all, his fire ability can be launched under the control of the brain. In addition, Ling Feng feels that something seems to have grown in his brain, itching. The reason why his brain has become stronger is also because of this. This can't be the inner elixir of a superpower. Ling Feng is also unpredictable in his heart. Although I don't know what it is, as long as it is harmless to me, it's fine. Today's outing has gained a lot, and my strength has increased a lot. He collected the body of the grizzly bear and prepared to let Lin Su make him a braised bear paw in the evening. Then Ling Feng continued driving to find the location of Yuan base. Chapter 138. In an unknown factory in the eastern district of Shangjing City, a mysterious army wearing white clothes and white masks stood at the door of the factory. This army is not large, with only more than 30 people, but each of them is imposing and constantly exudes murderous aura. At first glance, they are people who have walked out of a sea of blood and corpses. At the forefront of this army, there are 3 people standing. The 3 of them are also wearing white clothes, but the masks are different from those worn by others. The murderous aura on the 3 people is stronger than that of others. On the opposite side of them, there are hundreds of people standing, each of whom is full of anger. They hold various weapons and are not afraid of powerful enemies. These people are members of the Yuan base, and the group of people wearing white clothes opposite them are the White Clothes Religion, which has recently become famous. In the name of religion, this group of invaders ordered them to submit to the White Clothes Religion and hand over all their food and supplies. Otherwise, they will be purified in the name of the Snow God. Dewey Bai, the leader of Yuan base, stood at the front of the team, looking at the group of people with ill intentions with a fearful look on his face. Although there were only more than 30 people on the opposite side, each of them gave him a sense of danger. The aura they exuded was a bit like that of a superpower, but not quite, but their strength was definitely much stronger than that of ordinary people. The 3 people standing in the front were real superpowers, and they claimed to be messengers of the god cult. The 3 messengers stared at Du Yibai with sharp eyes. Li Bing, who was standing in the middle, said in a cold tone, "Leader Du, on behalf of the god cult, I will ask you one last time. Are you sure you don't follow the great snow god and become his most loyal believer?" Du Yibai looked at him coldly and said with a sneer on his face, "Snow god, you are just doing banditry in the name of God. How outrageous! Snow God was born to save the people of the world. How can you ordinary people understand the good intentions of Snow God? Only by submitting to Snow God can you get salvation, Li Bing said with a pious face. He is the most loyal believer of Snow God. Everything he has today is given by Snow God. His supernatural power was awakened under the guidance of Snow God. It was Snow God who gave him powerful strength. In his heart, Snow God is more important than his parents. He does not allow anyone to slander his beliefs. Dewey Bai said silently, with a cold face. Don't talk nonsense anymore. I will not give you our resources. If we give you the resources, we can only wait to die. Li Bing's face under the mask instantly became extremely cold. All those who did not submit were pagans and evil. If you don't surrender, you will die, Li Bing said fiercely with a murderous look on his face. He raised his right hand and issued an order to the believers of the god cult behind him. Brave, holy soldiers, raise your weapons and purify all these pagans. Under his order, more than 30 believers instantly became angry and their murderous intent soared into the sky. They drew their long swords, quickly changed their attack formations, and rushed towards the direction of Luan base. Du Ibai frowned. Prepare to counterattack and eliminate these invaders. Hundreds of members of Luan base also raised their weapons and rushed towards the team of the White Robe God cult. The war was about to break out. The teams of both sides quickly fought together. But Du Ibai was soon shocked by the strength of the White Robe God cult. She thought it was a battle of equal strength. Although the opponent was slightly stronger, the number of people on her side was more than 10 times that of the opponent. She could also defeat the opponent by relying on the advantage in numbers. The actual situation is, there is a one-sided situation on the battlefield. Although the opponent has only more than 30 people, they're all brave and fearless, and they fight desperately. They seem to feel no pain, and they are not afraid even if they are injured. And their strength is far beyond her imagination. Her subordinates are not their opponents at all, and they have no power to fight back at all. The people in Luan Bay soon suffered heavy casualties. Du Ibai's expression changed, and he immediately stretched out his hands and used his supernatural power to summon metal. In order to maximize her supernatural power, she arranged a large amount of metal around her base. Sharp long knives, sharpened steel pipes, rusty metal chips. At the moment when her ability was used, countless metals on the battlefield broke out from the ground. These metals floated in the air and quickly flew towards the believers of the White Clothes cult. These suddenly appearing metal weapons caught the believers who were killing people off guard. They reacted quickly and immediately raised their long knives counterattack. Du Ibai saw this. His face was stern, and he raised his hands to the sky. Rise! The long sword in the hands of the white-robed cultist and the metal fragments on the field all rose to the sky. Fall! With Du Ibai's order, the metal that had risen to the sky quickly shot down at a very high speed. The dense metal stabbed down like rain. The cultists without weapons were instantly injured. More than half of them were killed or injured in just a few seconds. Li Bing, who was standing in the distance, changed his expression. He didn't expect that Du Ibai's ability was so powerful. Her ability is simply a cheat on the battlefield. If she didn't stop it, I'm afraid all the soldiers would be slaughtered by her. Let's go together and take him down, Li Bing said to the two psychics next to him. The three looked at each other and attacked Du Ibai at the same time. Li Bing's ability is super speed. It has absolute speed, can quickly move behind the enemy and attack. The other two have ordinary power abilities. The three people quickly attack from 3 different directions. Du Ibai changed and controlled the metal to quickly attack the 3 people, while retreating to the back. Her ability is remote control. Once the enemy is in close combat, it will be extremely disadvantageous to her. The dense metal whistled and attacked in front of Li Bing and the other 2. Li Bing relied on extremely fast dodging and was unscathed. As for the other 2, it was not so easy. They all had power abilities and speed was their defect. They could only dodge in the face of attacks, but their speed was too slow. One of them was directly pierced through the heart by a sharp steel pipe and died on the spot. The other person was also seriously injured. The thigh was pierced by metal and lost its combat effectiveness. Li Bing's expression suddenly changed, and the anger in his eyes was about to burst out. He quickly rushed towards Du Yibai's position. Du Yibai continued to control the metal to attack Li Bing's position. The members of the base who were fighting in the field found that their leader was in danger. They also began to change their attack targets and quickly swung their knives in the direction of Li Bing. Chapter 139. Facing the attack of the members of Luan base, Li Bing didn't care. He flashed and bypassed the attack of this group of ordinary members. He had only one goal. As long as Du Yibai was caught, the rest of the people would not be a problem. At this time, Du Yibai was also very anxious. Although her ability was powerful, it had a fatal flaw. Speed-type ability users restrained her very severely. This person from the white-robed divine cult was extremely fast. Among all the people he had seen, only Ling Feng could compare with him. Facing Li Bing's constant approach, she could only passively rely on metal to block his progress, but it was useless. If this situation continued, he would force her in front of her sooner or later. The battle in the field was not optimistic. The remaining dozen or so white-robed divine cult members were still slaughtering wantonly, and only dozens of people were left struggling on the Luan base side. Li Bing looked at the increasing advantage on his side, and the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up. Du Yibai, if you submit to my religion now, I will give you one last chance. I can forgive you for killing more than a dozen of my believers. How about that? Du Yibai's eyes flickered, and she was now shaken in her heart. She didn't want to watch her base members die one by one. She herself was not afraid of death. She had no father or mother, and had no worries. Death was a relief for her, but she couldn't watch others die because of her. Li Bing saw that she seemed to be shaken, so he continued. As long as you are willing to submit to the divine religion, I can ask the snow god to allow you to bring these people to join the divine religion. Li Bing's tone was gentle, and his tone was full of bewitching. Wow, there are so many people. Just then, an inappropriate voice sounded. Everyone on the field immediately looked in the direction of the voice. I saw a well-proportioned and handsome young man walking towards this side with lazy steps. Who else could this person be but Ling Feng? Seeing Ling Feng, Du Yibai's eyes were full of surprise. She knew that she was saved today. Ling Feng walked to Du Yibai and looked at her speechlessly. Why is it that every time I see you, you're either being beaten or on the way to be beaten? Are you a masochist? Do you become stronger when you are beaten? Or do you like the feeling of being beaten? Du Yibai looked at her with resentment, ashamed and angry. You are the masochist. I think you're a jinx. As long as you are here, I will have no good. Ling Feng was a little unhappy when he heard this. If you don't welcome me, then I will leave. He pretended to leave. No, no, no. Du Yibai hurriedly grabbed his clothes when he saw him leaving. Help me once more. I can't beat him. Ling Feng smiled slightly and said cunningly, I can help you, but you have to agree to one condition. Du Yibai agreed without thinking. No problem. As long as it's not too much, I agree. Li Bing, who was standing in the distance, looked at the two people flirting with each other without paying attention to others, and his face turned blue with anger. At the same time, there was a trace of jealousy in his heart. He was ugly in appearance and was ridiculed since he was very young, which made him feel inferior. He didn't even have the courage to speak to the girl he liked. But Ling Feng not only looked very handsome, but even the base leader like Du Yibai greeted him with a smile, as if he was very familiar with him. The most outrageous thing was that he didn't take himself seriously at all. You are from that base? I'm the White God cult. Don't meddle in other people's business. Li Bing said in a low voice. Ling Feng in the distance seemed to have not heard anything, and did not even look at him, and continued to talk and laugh with Du Yibai. Don't worry, this matter of mine will only benefit you, and it can also make your strength go to the next level. Du Yibai's heart moved when he heard this. It can make his strength go to the next level? There is such a good thing. Okay, I promise you. Du Yibai nodded and said. Li Bing was mad. This was the first time since he became the messenger of the God religion that someone ignored him like this. This feeling seemed to have returned to the end of the world. He was just a small, transparent person that no one paid attention to. Asshole! Who are you? Li Bing yelled hysterically. Ling Feng turned his eyes around, looked at him casually, and said impatiently, "What are you yelling about? You were showing off. What the hell did you say about the god religion?" Li Bing was so angry that his teeth were about to break. It was fine if he ignored him, but now he dared to insult his faith. "You are really courting death. How can you insult my white-clothes divine religion at will?" He gritted his teeth, said, with teeth. Ling Feng sneered. "What is the white god religion? I've never heard of it." Li Bing immediately used his missionary identity to popularize science. The white god religion was founded by the great snow god. His Majesty the Snow God is a god who has descended to the earth. He can turn you into ashes with a wave of his hand. His strength is beyond your imagination. After saying that, he looked at Ling Feng with a proud face. Ling Feng didn't feel anything about this, and even wanted to laugh a little. He said with a smile, "No, buddy, you have joined a pyramid scheme. Apart from anything else, your organization has a strong brainwashing ability. You also believe such outrageous words." Ling Feng really couldn't believe that he believed such a clumsy lie. "Shut up. Dare to question the great snow god. Damn it." The man in front of him repeatedly disrespected the snow god, which was a great insult to him. He attacked Ling Feng directly, and he decided to beat this pagan to death. "Die!" Li Bing roared. Then, he found that he could not move. He urged his supernatural power to break free from control, but found that it was useless. Li Bing looked at Ling Feng with horror. Ling Feng put away his smile and said coldly, "God? I will show you what a real god is now." He moved his mind, and more than a dozen believers of the white-clothes divine religion were immediately controlled by a mysterious force and could not move at all. Then he snapped his fingers, and more than a dozen controlled believers were instantly covered with green flames. The believers screamed instantly, and the terrifying green flames burned the believers to ashes in just a few seconds. Li Bing trembled all over. He had never heard of such a method, and he had never seen it before. He killed more than a dozen elites with a wave of his hand. It is not an exaggeration to call such a method a god. Du Yibai, who was standing next to Ling Feng, was even more shocked. How strong was this man? He could refresh his cognition every time. Strong. Too strong. "You. Who are you?" Li Bing said tremblingly. Ling Feng smiled evilly. "Me? Someone who specializes in killing gods." Li Bing was swallowed by the strange fire with a look of horror on his face, turned into ashes, and drifted away with the wind. Chapter 140. After dealing with Li Bing, Ling Feng calmly put away his crystal, and at the same time put the crystals of the other two people in his pocket. After collecting the spoils, he turned around and found that Du Yibai and the others in Luan base were looking at him in shock. Du Yibai was better. He had seen Ling Feng's methods before, but the others in Luan base saw it for the first time. They really regarded Ling Feng as a god now. A powerful psychic can be dealt with a wave of his hand. If this is not the method of a god, then what is it? Ling Feng walked slowly to Du Yibai's side and smiled. "Please help you solve it. Now let me tell you about my business." Du Yibai nodded woodenly. Her eyes were full of admiration. Ling Feng's domineering words just now hit her heart directly. "My condition is also very simple. That is, you join my base." Du Yibai's face was stern. "Join your base." She felt bitter. She had driven away a hungry wolf, and now there was another fierce tiger. The key is that this fierce tiger cannot be defeated yet. Ling Feng looked at Du Yibai with a sad face and said immediately, "Don't worry, I'm not like those idiots in the white clothes cult. I'm sincerely inviting you. I don't even look down on the supplies you have. I just want someone to help me manage the base." Du Yibai looked into Ling Feng's eyes, half believing and half doubting. "Are you serious? You really don't want the supplies in my hands?" Ling Feng chuckled and said lightly, "Do I have to lie to you? If I want supplies, I can just rob them. Why talk nonsense with you here?" Du Yibai looked a little angry. After thinking about it carefully, although Ling Feng's words made people uncomfortable, there was nothing wrong with it. With his strength, It would be a matter of waving his hand to rob his supplies. You can let me join, but I have a condition. What condition? I want to take the people from my base with me. Otherwise, I won't go. Du Yibai's tone was very firm. The members of Luan base were deeply moved when they heard what their boss said. This is also the reason why they are willing to work for her. Ling Feng thought for a while after hearing this, and slowly said, "You can take them with you, but they must abide by the rules of our base like ordinary members of the base." "No problem. I will restrain them. Then it's settled." The two quickly reached a consensus, and Ling Feng successfully accepted a powerful psychic. After everything was settled, Ling Feng simply didn't leave. There were still more than 100 people in Luan base, and they had to pack their belongings and supplies. Ling Feng was worried that the people of the White Clothes cult would come over, and there might be trouble. Du Yibai was of course very welcome to this. With such a strong man in charge, she felt much more at ease. Du Yibai warmly invited Ling Feng to visit their base. The Luan base was built under a food processing factory, and they relied on the raw materials stored in the factory to survive the initial apocalypse. But now supplies are a bit tight. The entire base looks very simple, and the living environment is also very poor, which is completely different from his base. They don't even have a decent weapon in their hands, just some knives and sticks. If it weren't for the protection of Du Yibai, the superpower, I'm afraid this base would have been annexed by other bases long ago. At noon, Du Yibai invited Ling Feng to dinner, a total of 2 dishes. A can of beef, a braised chicken, still a pre-prepared dish, and a staple steamed bun. Du Yibai blushed slightly and said a little embarrassedly, "The conditions in our base are relatively difficult. This is already the best food I can take out. These are my last stocks. I have treasured them for a long time." Ling Feng didn't care about it at all, and he was also thoughtful. "I don't know how many of these things are in my space, and I have basically never eaten them. Although there are many prepared dishes in the space, Ling Feng does not intend to take them out. Otherwise, it will make him look down on others." Ling Feng sat on the chair very generously and said indifferently, "It's good, and there is also braised chicken. I haven't eaten it for a long time, and I'm really a little greedy." Du Yibai smiled lightly and sat down opposite Ling Feng. "Then you eat more." Ling Feng picked up a steamed bun and started eating it in big mouthfuls, showing that it was very delicious. Du Yibai was very happy to see this, and also took out a steamed bun and ate it in big mouthfuls. These things are garbage in Ling Feng's eyes, but they are delicious foods that she has always been reluctant to eat. "By the way, how much have you developed your superpowers now?" Ling Feng 8-man-2 asked. "The progress is still very slow. Now I can only control the metal within 100 meters around me," Du Yibai said seriously. Ling Feng nodded and said casually, "After returning to the base, I will help you improve. Your current ability is still very obvious." "Really?" Du Yibai looked at Ling Feng excitedly. Although he trained his ability very hard every day, the effect was very poor and the progress was very slow. Ling Feng could actually improve his strength. How could he not be excited? "No big deal. I will just upgrade you to the level of a superpower user first." The shock in Du Yibai's eyes was beyond words. "By the way, upgrade to a superpower user?" Listening to his tone of voice, this matter seemed as simple as eating. If I could really upgrade to a superpower user, Du Yibai felt his heartbeat speed up when he thought about it. After the two quickly finished lunch, Du Yibai took Ling Feng to check the packing of supplies. First of all, there was food, which was all flour and rice and some frozen foods, and the amount of food was not much. In order to facilitate the moving speed, Ling Feng directly put the supplies into the space. In addition to the food, there was some processing equipment. Looking at these things that looked like rags, Ling Feng frowned. "Don't want these things. There are better ones in the base. Just take the important things." Du Yibai also said to the members who were packing up, "Listen to him, discard all the things that should be discarded, and we have to set off quickly." After an hour of packing, all the things were packed up, and Ling Feng put them all into the space. Everyone was lightly equipped and set off for the location of the God of War base. Just after they walked for 4 hours, Dozens of people wearing white clothes and masks came here. In the open space outside the base, more than a dozen bodies of the white clothes cult members were lying on the ground. In addition, there were 2 bodies of superpowers. The leader frowned. Search carefully. We didn't find Li Bing's body. He might still be alive.